Good evening, everybody. Thank you for dealing with something of an unconventional start to the stream. I spent quite a bit more time in Tony's stream than sort of intended, but she did give me a copy of Secret Ponchos, and I was hoping to. I was hoping to try the game as it is, and in this case, because there was obviously going to be a conflict between doing the stream on time and being able to. I was kind of given the game on the assumption that I would play it right away. I thought probably the best way to deal with the two priorities would be to sort of stream that as a bit of a pre-show, and then it seems like things kind of took too long, and then eventually there were problems. I was, for whatever reason, preventing people from getting into the game, so it seemed like a good time to start Crusader Kings 2. We'll do as best as we can in terms of getting a good proper stream in. And there's a little bit to talk about in terms of new mods and things like that for the game. So it may not be immediately apparent, but in the regular game, you have sort of your options as far as the terrain is concerned, and then you can switch back to realm. Oh, hang on. No, I think that's still terrain. Anyways, there's a couple of mods that I brought in. It was supposed to show the terrain underneath the map. It might be that it still doesn't show the woods. I thought it did. The game that I've actually been playing has not been England, but I was actually playing in India, and I'm not quite sure what the geography is like. Yeah, there's a couple of tree areas, but I wasn't really paying attention to that. So, just purely visual mods, nothing to mess with the Iron Man playthrough. I think they're okay. I think the borders are a little hard to look at sometimes, but it's a little bit, I'll say it's easier to see in Europe than it is in India. Or it could just be that I'm a little bit more familiar with Europe because I've played a couple of rounds through that. So, where are we in terms of the game? We're continuing with our usual problem of having too many vassals. We have just gotten over sort of a series of wars, but we're fairly strong, so if we consider all of our neighbors, we've got the Umayyads to the west. Now they're currently fighting a revolt, so in this case they're not at full strength. They've got 5,000 troops to their name, but certainly I'm still much stronger than them. The next thing that we can consider is the territories of the Byzantine Empire, which was roughly what we were considering as far as our next conquest is concerned. We'll see whether or not we commit to that or not. And then, effectively, there's kind of there's a couple of paths which we can take at this point for the game. We can again have our goal of uniting Christianity under the banner of the Holy Roman Empire, which means that we'll make incursions into England. But of course, you can also say that it's our duty to rescue our co-religionists from the areas that have not already been converted to Sunni Islam, which would mean that we'd want to do some holy wars on the Umayyads. Hey T. Clark, how's it going? I don't know if you got to see any of the stuff that I was doing with Tony Loran, but that is the reason why my own Crusader Kings 2 broadcast is significantly later than it normally is. So I hope, if you got a chance to see it, I hope you enjoyed it. If you neither saw it nor didn't enjoy it, I apologize for the later. Oh wow, a lot of crackles, eh? Let me fix that. Hopefully that fixes it for you, T. Clark. Sorry if that's that was particularly troubling. If you could just let me know if it's fixed, I'd appreciate it. But yeah, if you didn't get a chance to see any of the stuff on Tony Loran's stream, we were doing Secret Ponchos, which is it's an interesting game. It's by a local group. It's better. Hey, Real Skeleton Killman. So apologies earlier about Captain Spark. When you said Old Captain Sparkles, I thought that was a reference to the guy's name. So when I saw Captain Sparkles, it seemed to be what you were talking about, and so I I wasn't quite sure. Like, I just kind of thought it was for the Minecraft content rather than listening for the qualities of the voice. So obviously I misinterpreted what you were going for. But I did finally check out the stream. So great. Thanks, guys. But yeah, so effectively what we're considering now is what fight we want to take. So there's a couple things that we need to keep in mind before we tangle with the Byzantine Empire. We've got more troops than them, which is good sort of on its own, but they have quite a bit more money. So they've... Oh, sorry, that's what am I doing? Okay, well, they still have more money than me, but it's not as bad as I thought before. So the one thing that we want to think about is they've got 16,750 troops. And then if you think about what they have access to as far as mercenaries, you've got 3,600, I think, is probably the best bet. Oh no, it's fine, Skella. I mean, in the context now, I understand what you mean by the old Captain Sparkles, and it perfectly makes sense. It's how I would have described it myself. It's just especially because I, had missed out from the first opportunity to read it. When I write myself a note saying old Captain Sparkles, I see that as a name. So I just kind of screwed it up. Thank you for the recommendation, though. Now, T. Clark, I am not familiar at all with Wild Arms. What is that? I'd love to check it out myself, but I know if I'm streaming, I'm gonna have some difficulties. So, anyways, we're talking about while I wait for the Wild Arms answer. So, the couple things that we would want to consider, which is, first of all, their full capacity. The next thing is we've got a fairly good relationship with them right now. They've got an opinion of 60. So if they dislike me and I've taken lands that are theirs, there's also a risk that that I'm going to make a strong enemy, and that either a later generation or even this one is going to turn around and lay siege to my territory, and I'm not going to be able to do anything about it. So we're okay with 16,000 troops. At full capacity, we can add about another 4,000. So in this case, we're looking at about 20. Well, we still outnumber them in that case. We've got 26. Now, we are probably about 4,000, it looks like. Yeah, we're about 4,000 troops off from our own. So these things kind of balance each other out. I also have a retinue inside there. I don't believe they have any retinues yet. So there's probably... Oh, no, they do have 220. Oh, that's cool, Real Skeleton Kill. Like, so you mean in terms of the history? Because I will admit, actually, my medieval history has come a lot more as a result of playing this game. I was particularly interested in Charlemagne when I finally sort of read up on him. I knew of the figure before I played this game, but I never quite understood what his role in history was. And to see it now is something that, I mean, there's something about playing the game and sort of this Charlemagne simulator, for lack of a better term, which is kind of interesting. But also, now that I'm a little bit older and that I can appreciate these kinds of things, I'm very impressed with the accomplishment. I mean, in some senses, it's very easy. I think it's easier to have this idea of these great world-spanning empires because you're thinking, like, so if there were to be, let's just say the United States decided to annex British Columbia for the hell of it, that would go around the world almost instantaneously. And it would, like, that would be such a huge event. That would be unprecedented. And the world would be shocked by that. And the response would be almost immediate. Whereas what we're looking at right now, so if you think, and I mean, I'm borrowing a little bit from Gombrich, because I believe that's how he introduces this Charlemagne chapter, actually, is to say, consider, in the case of Paradox, they've divided the world into these little counties. And, let's maybe go to a place that isn't united by an empire. Actually, you know what? England will be great for that. Or it would have been. But, you know, especially when you start off... Actually, Ireland seems to be in a fairly fragmented state. So, you know, none of these places are... Like, they're all independent, right? So if Northumbria decides to take the tip of Ireland, they're not necessarily going to worry. It's like, okay, that's my, you know, annoying neighbor who's my rival that just got taken. Assuming that they learn of it at all. And so all of a sudden, if you've got somebody who's capable of organizing, if you've got somebody who is able to sort of put together this, you know, this force, if you've got somebody who has the ambition and has the organization to be able to make a move towards conquering large parts of the world, and this could be an idea such as, you know, the rise of Islam and the, you know, the ideas of this charismatic leader, or you can have what happened with Charlemagne and attempting to unite this region under his banner. Arguably, that time has passed, right? Now, you know, is world domination possible? I'm sure it is, but it's probably not going to be military conquest. I'd like to think we're hopefully at a point where the goals are not necessarily the acquisition of territory through military engagements, although as what happened in the Crimea demonstrates, you know, we can't necessarily say that all of that is behind us. It is one tool available, but generally you don't sort of see, you know, you're not going to see a large nation like the United States decide that it wants to form a continental, Manifest Destiny isn't quite exactly going to be what we, you know, what we've read of it. And, but on the other hand, you know, the question is why would they even bother with it, right? When they're perfectly capable of engaging in productive trade, you know, why not just let the Canadians be Canadians, let the Mexicans be Mexicans, and we can trade with them and try and get as favorable terms as we want. So generally I think it means hopefully that we have just a better standard of life all over. But Wild Arms is an old JRPG from the first PlayStation, got a really cool sort of Western theme to it, one of your favorite JRPGs, and has your all-time favorite opening to a video game. Well, now I know what Let's Plays I'm checking out. And you studied Roman history in your homeschool stuff. Okay, so this would be, this is actually just before the events of Crusader Kings then, right? Are you thinking about like the ancient Roman emperors? Because that stuff I'm actually a little more familiar with myself. More so from philosophy, but I think it's hard to study classics and not have an appreciation of the context in which those things happen. Anyways, sorry guys, I got off on a little bit of a tangent there, but basically our goal right now is to sort of figure out how do we manage this problem of having too many vassals and not making sufficiently large enemies, so that we need to, you know, we can't, like, if I go against the Byzantine Empire right now, chances are I'm betting the farm on that, and I'm going to have a significantly weakened military having engaged in that war. The benefit to taking on the Byzantines right now is that I've got these counts. So what I'm looking at right now is I've got 49 out of 45 vassals. And I basically want to get as many of the counts as I can sort of under my control. Sorry, out of my control and into the hands of these dukes. So the best situation would be if Capua were to become a duchy. What do we have here? So actually, this is not a bad example. So in this case, we've already got a count in Capua. We've got Neapolis. So what happens here? It's not the ideal situation because in this case, we just wind up upgrading this guy to a duke, which is, you know, not the best, but still reasonable. The next thing that we can try to do, let's just see, we've got the Duke of Salerno. So a good example here would be if I claim Amalfi. And in this case, I'm not adding to my vassals, but I am adding to my territory because I'm just going to simply incorporate that individual into my existing realm. Similar idea here that I have a count. He's kind of, he doesn't really have anything. And so again, I can convert this count into a duke by taking Calabera. So these are ideal kinds of conquests because I'm already at my vassal limit, and at the best, I would reduce the number of vassals that I have into... I'd reduce the number of vassals that I have into something that I can manage. If I can't reduce the number of vassals, then at least I would want to... I'd not want to make the problem worse. So that's the argument for the Byzantine Empire. The catch about the Abbasid Empire, the Umayyad Empire, as if you notice, Barcelona was really the last duchy that I had a count in that I could upgrade. So if I do anything to the west, I'm going to be adding more dukes. Now that's not necessarily terrible because it just means that if I feel that this number is getting too high, I just turn one of them into a king, and that was one of the reasons why I became an emperor. Because in this case, kings are still under me, so I'm not surrendering those particular titles. But ideally, once I sort of have the realm under control, for lack of a better term, I would impose imperial authority. I'll show that to you in laws. And what that does is it gives me an additional 25 vassals. So, it'd be cool to have, kingdoms all be my direct vassals. And actually, I'm a little curious. Let's see how the kingdom goes. All of it starting from ancient Greece to the Reformation. That's cool. So basically, that one, if you're looking for games that translates into, that would give us... I don't know if... I think they did a Rome... I think Paradox did do a Rome game, but I don't believe... they support it anymore. Can I really not find out kingdom? Okay. Well, I guess I could count them. But yeah, so I from what I understand, they did have a Rome game, but Crusader Kings would probably be the beginning of the time period, and then Europa Universalis has the Reformation happen, maybe not quite in the middle of it, but close to it. It's a really interesting period of history. I think it'd be very rewarding to play a game like that. All right. So basically, the idea here would be I could vassalize all of these territories, and I think I've got 45 right now. If I were to add, and I don't have any centralization, right? Yeah. If I were to add centralization, I'd be able to have more territories, but I'd lose the number of vassals, and I'm actually looking to try and increase that number if I can. So a good example here would be, I've got 45, adding another 25 would give me 70, and it's hard for me to believe that there's 70 kingdoms in total. I suspect I'd probably have more. But that's, again, this is the sort of long-term goal. To put imperial administration in, I would need to have absolute crown authority and majesty of 5, both of which will require legalism 5. Well, majesty and legalism 5. Currently, I'm at majesty 2 and legalism 2. So realistically, this is not going to be happening for a while. So what I might wind up doing is finding one of my kids. I've actually looks like I've already made my son a duke. What I might do here is just turn him into one of my kings. Probably like the King of Lombardy or something like that. Actually, ideally I'd hang on to Lombardy because there's an achievement that I can get. But... oh, we've got Fraggle Dragons coming in. Thank you very much for the host, Tony Loran. For those of you who weren't watching a few minutes ago, I was playing Secret Ponchos with her. She kindly gave me a copy of the game. Unfortunately, it seems there was some technical problem that was causing me to prevent people from loading into the game. So I was, of course, due to I was due to be playing Crusader Kings 2 tonight anyway, so I figured it was a good time to move in. But Tony is a member of Team Panda, one of the more recent members of Team Panda, somebody who works in the games industry, so she has done several jobs inside of there and has worked on titles that most people will consider some of their favorites. And recently gotten back from PAX, I'm sure can tell you all of the exciting stories, and will be going to TwitchCon soon, so... Hope you're all doing well, Fraggle Dragon people. You'll notice my tone is somewhat different on this stream than it is whenever I'm on Tony's channel. We're playing... Hey, T-Coops! So, actually, this is a good... So I was talking a little bit about what our strategy was going to be. What I could maybe do as well... I know there's some of you who are here for the first time. In fact, I notice... for some reason, my notification doesn't quite seem to be working. But Renaticus, I just noticed that you followed. Thank you very much for that. Let me just take a second here and hit my alert buttons to make sure that those are working properly. Nope. And I'm hearing crackle, which means you guys are probably going to hear crackle in a second. I think I got a couple things I can do to fix that. That's not a problem, Renaticus. I will definitely say that this is a stream of limited appeal. We do Crusader Kings 2 every Friday. But it's a game I find very rewarding, and I like... it's a wonderfully complex game, but I know it's not for everyone. So for those of you who are new here, I'll explain a little bit about what Crusader Kings 2 is and decide whether or not it is the kind of thing that you like. If it's not, of course, no hard feelings. I wish you your best of luck in terms of finding something on Twitch. But of course, Tony was kind enough to host me, which means that for whatever reason, she sees some value in what I do, even if I don't see it myself. So let's take a look. Thank you, Rich Chen. So this is normally what you should get when there is a follow. And yeah, there we go. Host never seems to work. But pretend that says Tony Loran. And I'll leave the donation one on its own. Generally, we don't need to worry about that one. Although you guys have been extremely generous with your donations as of late. So perhaps I should say. I never have the expectation of having that notification come up. And yet, sometimes you guys will surprise me on that. So, and yes, Real Skeleton Killman did come early. Twitch always messes up anyway. Yeah. So, Crusader Kings 2. This is a style of game known as a grand strategy game. Grand strategy is actually a military term. It's going to basically refer to the use of all of the tools of the state in order to engage in warfare. So this means that it's not just the soldiers that you have to attack somebody, but it's going to be your diplomatic channels. It's going to be your economic strength. It's going to be using everything that you can towards achieving your ends. And so this company, Paradox Development Studio, has created a series of games. Their flagship is actually the game that comes after this one, called Europa Universalis. But, hello, Astral Seer. Good to see you again. System Shock is following himself again. Yeah, sorry, guys. I wish I could put names inside of it, but Renaticus deserves to hear the Woody Allen voice and see the clip from American Beauty. So what this game is about, and where it's a little bit different from a game like Europa Universalis, is that it takes place in the Middle Ages. We started playing as Charlemagne, who is originally the founder of the Holy Roman Empire, although that is not how it turned out for us. He was the king of the Franks, a really impressive guy. If you want to read some interesting history, I would recommend it. And in fact, one thing that you can do, you may need to do the local library for this, but if you go to the Encyclopedia Britannica, one of the wonderful things about looking at the Encyclopedia Britannica instead of something like Wikipedia, and I'm not going to be one of those people who says Wikipedia is garbage. It depends on what you're looking for. But the nice thing about Britannica is that if you have are looking for interesting follow-up reading, it will actually give you resources. And that's one of the things that prevented me from getting into history, was that I never really had good source material to read. You know, it's one thing to pick up a textbook, but, you know, what textbook do you read and things like that. So this game kind of, it fit the same niche that I think Civilization did, which was getting me interested in part of the world that, or part, you know, a part of history that I wasn't quite aware of. So historically what happened after Charlemagne finished, as tends to be the case with a lot of very impressive figures of history, that they're very capable of managing this very large political entity. But once they pass, it's no longer manageable. And so what happened previously, or what happened in history, was you had it split into basically what eventually became kind of Italy, France, and Germany. Now, we're a ways in. It's the year 844, and the game began in 769. Charlemagne has long since passed, and in fact, what happened in this particular one, this gives me a chance to sort of show you what this game looks like. The first... Oop, that's not the right one. First person we played was Emperor Charles of Francia, who was Charlemagne from history. Oh, the biggest difference between Europa Universalis and this is that in EU you play as a country, in this game you play as a dynasty. Absolutely, Astral Steer. I would say the ways that they've modeled that are very interesting because they add new gameplay elements. So in this case, you have sort of these RPG-ish elements where you have the individual stats of your ruler. And in Europa Universalis, you do actually care about the capability of your government. You can have good governors and you can have bad governors. But in this case, you could sort of say, as I usually like quoting, heavy is the head that wears the crown. You have to deal with all of your vassals. You can't just declare a law and everybody follows. And so this game is a lot more about interpersonal relationships in addition to trying to achieve your political ends. And in my case, that's expanding the empire as large as I can. So in this case, he founded the Empire of Francia, but before he could found the Holy Roman Empire, he died childless. And so we wound up playing as Pepin, his nephew, who in fact, oops, that's not the right one. And he was the one who actually founded the Holy Roman Empire. And so kind of the story, if you want to make a story out of this, you can. There's plenty of emergent events that sort of occur to make this interesting. But we have this idea of Pepin sort of taking on the mantle of Augustus, who, you know, was not a direct descendant of Caesar and yet was adopted by Caesar. And you can consider Caesar the first emperor of Rome, but of course it was a very brief tenure, whereas Augustus is the one who we sort of properly associate with the first emperor as we sort of know the Roman Empire and as we study in history. So how much does this game cost? Yeah, I think Astral has it right. What I would recommend, Real Skeleton Killman, if you want to play the game as I'm playing it right now, all of the DLC and stuff like that will cost over $100 easily, probably close to 200. So the best thing that you can do is actually wait until it goes on sale. It goes on sale fairly frequently. And what I'll suggest is get the DLC that you think is interesting when it goes on sale and just slowly file it in over time. That's what I did. Because as much as I like this game, I don't think it's worth the... I do not believe it is worth the listed price that Paradox has put on. And in fact, they have a post on their forums about the DLC policy, and pretty much all of their fans let them know that they do not have a good DLC policy, and they wish they would stop it. In any case, I'm trying to remember who Pepin's descendant was, because apparently it wasn't a blood relation. I don't believe that. However it turned out, so it apparently is some distant relation that I'm playing right now. We're basically another member of the Carling, also known as the Carolingian dynasty. And at this point here, we're breaking history. Obviously the wrong founder of the Holy Roman Empire, but also we just got over a series of rebellions inside of our realm, and we managed to keep it intact. So in this case, the Holy Roman Empire is a unified political entity, and it's not. In this case, there's still a certain degree of autonomy of its lesser figures, but we're in a position now where we're going to start increasing the authority of the crown, and we're going to start sort of shaping the history that we're effectively recreating the ancient Roman Empire, which has always sort of been the goal of anybody with significant power in history. Yeah, Astral, I was going to say, the other thing that I've experienced is I really enjoy streaming this game because, as Astral Seer is demonstrating, the people who enjoy this game tend to like sort of introducing people to it themselves and getting them through the very steep learning curve. And this is the one thing that's appealing about this game is, for those of you who've still kind of hung around, what's the point of a Steam group? Yeah, it's another form of collection. For those of you who've hung around from Tony's channel, one of the things that's slightly off-putting about this game, but in another way is rewarding, is the complexity. So the way that I kind of like to break down the complexity of this game is to first of all focus on me, who's the most important person in the world, clearly. And so you have your individual stats, your ability to negotiate with people, your diplomacy. Martial is your ability to engage in combat. Stewardship would be your management of the realm's resources. That is both how many individual counties that you can manage yourself, as well as what you can raise in terms of taxes. Intrigue, which is a very big part of the game. This would be either conducting assassinations, trying to revoke titles from vassals, things like that. And finally, learning, which will kind of affect the technological progress of your realm. What we've got right now is we've got a vassal limit. As we were talking about, the great figures of history tend to not be able to pass on that. I mean, again, it's not always the case, but you don't always see these great empires stay great empires because it does take a certain kind of person to be able to handle it. And right now we've got 49 vassals out of our limit of 45. So in this case, there is a limit in terms of how much you can manage. So one goal I have right now would be ideally to bring this down, or this number up. I can do that by increasing my diplomacy trait. And that's also going to start putting a bit of a constraint. We were talking a little bit earlier about how I might want to engage in conquest. This is the Umayyad Empire. They're a foreign religion, so in this case I can declare war on them, and that is sufficient reason, although they might call in their co-religionists to help them in a war. But the drawback with that is if I were to add another duchy to my realm, so if you hear terms of the Duke of Cambridge or something like that, a duke rules over a duchy. So if I added another duchy to my realm, let's say we wanted to add Aragon, the problem that I would run into there is I've added yet another vassal, and so now I have 50 out of 45, and then my realm becomes unwieldy, especially when I die and one of my children inherits that kingdom. Or rather, sorry, and one of my maybe not when my children inherit the empire, some of those duchies may not be loyal, and so I'll need to recapture them. It's a great story game, creates legendary moments, good and bad for your characters. Yeah, absolutely. Some of my favorite moments out of these playthroughs have actually been the events that have sort of happened. I've had family members sort of show up on a road to Jerusalem one day and they become best friends. Like it's really neat how things like this can happen. So another consideration that I have is the size of my military. And again, to break down the complexity of the game, I've only been focusing on my individual panel. I noticed that I've got 26,000 troops available. So I take a look at my neighbors. One thing that we were talking about was going against the Byzantine Empire, and again, for those of you who maybe are not as interested in history, this would be the Eastern Roman Empire, the part that sort of broke off on its own, and in this case, this is the one that survived, whereas we're rebuilding the empire right now. So what I might want to do is sort of look at territories that I already have the duchy, and just simply expand the duchy to its traditional holdings. So in this case, we could sort of take the boot part of Italy again, or maybe we take Neapolis. But to do that, we're going to need to take the land from the Byzantines. Now they've got 16,000 troops. So in this case, it's a force that I can fairly comfortably deal with. It's important to remember that they do have 500 wealth. So in this case, I would be able to they'd be able to hire mercenaries, but they wouldn't be able to hire them very long. They'd probably have about 2 months in which, or actually, how much money are they making a turn? They're currently losing money, actually. So now would be a good time to strike, I think. But yeah, so what you want to do is you want to make sure you don't make a very powerful enemy to your right. So in this case, when I take a look at my individual profile, I've actually already got a couple of important pieces of information, which is I want to keep the number of vassals that I have the same or lower, which means that these areas become a lot more appealing. And then I of course had to visit outside my my own window to see the number of troops that my enemy had, but again, I just focused on the individual. And here we've got something good. What I would also want to do is take a look at their allies. They don't have any currently. So the best that they can do is hire mercenaries, and the most that they can hire as far as mercenaries are concerned would be 4,500 troops, which means that I still outnumber them, although not by as comfortable as a margin. So what I'd probably want to do in that situation if they hired mercenaries would be to hold back and bankrupt them through the cost of mercenaries. All right, have a good one, Skeleton Killman. "2:09 a.m. Kite. Loyal follower." By the way, guys, I was gonna do a surprise stream yesterday, which didn't turn out because I had some research that I needed to do, but I got Satellite Rain, and that game is really cool. So we're still gonna continue on with Shadowrun on Monday, but we've got another game in the hopper. So, and CPO Williams, it's good to see you again. I hope you're doing well. We got raided by Tony Loran. I'm not sure if you got to watch any of Secret Ponchos, but I think some of the people have filed out already. But for those of you who stayed, thanks a lot for hanging out. We will do some gameplay in a second, but this game definitely benefits from a little bit of setup, especially because, again, when you see, like, this game is not short on beautiful maps, right? Like, here you go. Geography doesn't change over the course of a couple hundred years, so the world largely looks the way that it did before. Maybe the names are different, you know. We've got Russia here, we've got Jerusalem. I mean, Jerusalem's still Jerusalem, but Israel doesn't exist. So, you know, the political boundaries may be different, but the geography is going to be the same. And it's, I don't know, I think this is a nice looking map. You know, you can zoom in and see. I guess I should go on highlighted areas, but I am using a mod which has slightly adjusted the textures. I think they look okay. I'm not necessarily convinced that they look better, but I think I'm happy enough with the way that the game looks. But in any case, you know, you've got an entire world in front of you. Assuming that you want to engage in conquest, where do you go? And so in this case, looking at your individual character and seeing where their strengths and weaknesses are, both in terms of traits, but as well as what you're facing in terms of your realm, is a good way to start. Another thing that you can do is examine your council and sort of see roughly where everybody is. So one thing that I want to do at the moment is make sure that my marshal is researching military technology, because I don't have any benefit for more troops. I'm basically the largest army in my immediate sphere of influence. In fact, the one that you would want to worry about would be the Abbasid Empire, which is quite strong right now, and they're fighting amongst themselves right now. So they've got 7,000 troops. Normally, they'll have 10,000 troops. This is probably because there's revolutions going on. I suspect that there's probably going to be some they'll have stronger armies later on in the future. But at the moment, I'm untouchable as far as military is concerned. So the decision now becomes when what part of the world am I going to conquer? Do I ever play Pagan? Well, I'm actually fairly new to this game. Is it Smegmar Ravioli? What a name. So I have played, the first playthrough we did was actually a county up in England. We played as the Duke of, was Westmoreland, was it? Yeah, Westmoreland. And founded the Empire Britannia. This one we did just a Charlemagne playthrough, so I haven't actually played Pagan before, although I've privately started an India playthrough, which I'm enjoying. You've been playing Finnish and Slavic, and every time you create a kingdom, your vassals turn on you. Yeah, that's... we just got over a big revolution here, actually, so we tend to rule with an iron fist on this stream. So generally what I try to do is provoke. I try to provoke the rulers before they become a sufficiently big problem. And switch to Agnatic Gavelkind. Okay. I mean, my goal right now is actually to get to primogeniture, which is going to take a while. Speaking of which, I should change my my technology. But in any case, the next way that you go, if you once you're done sort of looking at your single profile, your council's another good way of handling it. This is, by the way, a lot of people recommend. So in stream the other day, they were talking about how starting in Ireland or in England is a good way to go, because in this game it doesn't necessarily matter if you're the emperor or not. And in fact, if you play just like, let's say I decided to play this little count. Well, maybe not here because I've got a strong neighbor. But let's say I just played down here. If you look at it, you've got 5 different advisors, each associated with one of these traits. And they just need to take care of this little piece of land, right? Here, I have access to a deeper talent pool, so I've got more skilled advisors, but look at how many counties they need to take care of. I have to zoom almost the whole way out to fit the entire realm into the screen. So, in this case, if you want a simpler playthrough, you can actually argue for playing a smaller individual and managing it. So in this case here, I focus a little bit more on what these individuals are going to be doing and how that relates to my goals here. Right now, I'm sowing discontent in the Byzantine Empire, and that's just basically to erode their ability to raise armies. I don't need to worry too much about that right now, because it looks like they've got their hands tied with the Abbasids. But, it never hurts to tilt the odds in our favor. We're researching military technology. Again, I got off on that diatribe. But in this case, we're researching military technology because there's no benefit to us to training troops. And if you see the possibility of revolt risk, it's not meaningless. Like, there's probably going to be something that comes up here. That's because of heresy. But I believe we've eliminated that heresy, though. Yeah, we need to get rid of Baden. But in general, like, to me, it's better to have more technology in a region than worry about the possibility of a revolution, because in the end I can take care of the revolution with my army, which is large. England is not a good way to start. I don't know, my first game was on Westmoreland. But again, to each their own. I mean, the other thing I would say too, like, if somebody is fascinated with Islam, right, it would be very hard for me to say it's like, oh no, don't start as a caliphate first. Like, in the end, you're going to push through the difficult parts of learning if you're doing something that you're interested in. But yeah, it's obviously my feelings on that are probably going to be unique. I like games that are fairly challenging and require some work to get into. So it could be that I was okay with the challenges that England brings up. We also did it when we did an Old God start, which is a little bit different from 769. So, and yeah, I do recommend the tutorial. Isn't that helpful? I think, if anybody is interested in this game and they have questions, feel free to ask me. I know Astral Seer is very happy to help people out with the game as well. So I think there's no shortage of people who will give you help if you need it. I mean, if you're stuck, you can go to the tutorial, but I'm not entirely sure the reward for the time that you spend in it is quite there. Now, a similar argument could be made for my steward. Right now, I'm actually getting him to collect taxes, and that's just because, in general, I'd like to have a little bit more money to sort of sit back on. It would be ideal if I could get him to research economy tech, but at the moment, I'm trying to refill my treasury. My Spy Master I would normally be using to get rid of factions, but I'm in the wonderful situation right now where I don't have any. So in this case, I am getting him to go to a realm. In this case, it's actually Alexandria, which I think is somewhere in Egypt. Yeah, right here. I'm getting him to study technology, so this is sort of compensating for my steward's lack of research in economy tech. Similar thing with my court chaplain. I would be getting him to research cultural tech, especially because that fits my ideal of giving me the higher legalism to enact my High Crown Authority, which gives me primogeniture, which is a succession law that I would prefer. But right now I have heresy in my realm. So in this case, we have got the Waldesian heresy, which has appeared in one of my provinces, and I want to get rid of that as soon as I can. So in this situation, my court chaplain is not researching technology because I want to get rid of something that will cause revolution inside of my empire. You played an Irish count as a Germanic pagan. Oh, and CPO, sorry, of course CPO. I'm sorry, I need to acknowledge you as well, because we've played this together. CPO Williams is also another individual who plays this game, enjoys it, and is a really nice guy, so I can definitely vouch for his ability to hold your hand through the experience. Once you get all of England, France just sort of gets pissed. Well, let's face it, I'm going to take England no matter what, so... But yeah, in any case, when I'm talking about, how do you manage the complexity of a game like this? You go from your individual, which is the one thing you control, gives you an overview of your realm. You can slice your realm into these 5 different traits and assign your counselors sort of in line with the goals that you've set from looking at the main character. And then you implement your strategy. So in this case, we were talking about conquest. It seems to me this is the perfect time to try and take territory from the Byzantine Empire. And so the question now is, what do we want to take? I think in this case, this is a nice little piece of territory because it sort of cuts the realm in half. We'll eventually be taking the rest of these areas for ourselves. And so I think unless we can just outright claim a duchy, I think this is the best way to go. So... this is what I was looking at here. I'll just double check that we don't have anything more appealing. Yeah, so this would involve me getting some ships, which I'm not crazy about. Same deal. If I'm going to take this place, I might as well take this one. And interestingly enough, we don't seem to have a claim on Neapolis, which surprises me. Now, it looks like 2 people have a claim on this territory, so let me just see who the Duke is. Gandalf II. So I'd want it for this guy. Contemplating starting as a Christian Byzantine emperor. That should be fun as well. So out of curiosity, Astral Seer, how do you get a Christian Byzantine emperor? Is there just an option to change the religion? I've never played as the Byzantine Empire, so forgive me if that's a foolish question. All right. And for those of you who didn't notice, we just declared war. So you can't have an army raised except for your personal retinue. And what you do here, again, it's the feudal system, so we have our personal holdings, which only account for 2,000 troops, but we also have our vassals' holdings, which account for the majority of our force, which is 23,000 men. So managing them is a little bit difficult, so what I'm actually going to do is try and section them off to try and claim some territory while getting the main force organized. I'm not going to bother with the Corsican units just because it's too much trouble to try and move these guys. Not quite sure what to do. I think I'll just put it into 3 divisions. They're not going to be even size, but I'm okay. I'm okay with messing that up. Oh, the character creator DLC, one of the few pieces that I don't have. What do I do to keep my vassals happy after I change laws? Sometimes I just wait it out. If they're sufficiently mad, so let me just take a look at what we're looking at. Yeah, so we've got high opinion here. So how did I do this? I definitely, when I get a chance, try to do the sort of things that will give you some free opinions. So things like summer fairs and feasts. Sometimes, if they're too troublesome, I don't mind killing them. And then one of the things that I do, so a really nice way for me to get my vassals under control is I do tend to have a lot of factions. It's actually unique for me to not have any factions right now. And one of the ways that I handle that is I will, I'll have the scheming that happens on one end. So in that case, I will take my, my spy master to go after the worst offenders. But in addition, usually either I want to pass some kind of law, or I just want to, I want to deal with more than one faction at a time. And in that particular case, there's a very natural way of dealing with factions that emerges, which is I just, find somebody who's kind of on the border. I'm not going to go for somebody who has like a negative 100 opinion of me, but let's say somebody's got like a negative 30 or something like that. In order to try and take the temperature down on some of these factions, I'll usually just send my my diplomat to try and bring them under heel. So it's a combination of a few different things, but I just generally the game will give me situations that that prompt me to keep them happy. Yeah, and as Astral Seer, I mean, I don't use honorary titles as often as I probably should, if I'm completely honest. But on occasion, if I feel like I really need to get something done, I'm certainly not. I'm not above tossing somebody a title to keep them happy. Send Twitch chat to subdue a vassal? The Kappa face is my new spy master. It's a level 30 intrigue NPC. All right. So this is kind of crappy. They're going to arrive in Salerno. There's 600 of them. I'd rather not lose them. So what I'm going to do here is just make these troops stand down. Now, Smeg Ravioli, thank you very much for the follow. I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. Your Chalks goons. So what I'm basically what I'm doing here is I'm trying to create some kind of credible unit that can lay siege to some provinces. You'll notice in the bottom corner here we've got 0% war score. So there's two ways that you'll raise your war score. This will be either through winning battles, which is the best way and fastest way to earn war score. And the next way is to occupy territories. Now, eventually the war score is going to start ticking in your favor or against you. So until I take the goal, this part of Italy, or Lombardy in this case, over time the war score is going to go against me because I failed to achieve the objective. So what my priority should be is to actually take these units and lay siege to this province. The big problem with that, though, is the fog of war. There's a couple ways that I could handle this. Sometimes what I'll do if I need that kind of vision is bring up a couple of boats, move them into, just relevant parts of the realm, and just sort of spy on the units. Like I've got a spy master. Wait a minute, what? No, it's not my spy master, it's my chancellor. So I knew that there were 3,000 units in the capital. So I don't need to fear a huge army coming to get me right away. And again, I know that currently they are fighting the Abbasid Empire. So chances are the majority of their units are actually going to be in the eastern part of the Byzantine Empire. But with that in mind, I don't want to have a group of troops sieging this province and all of a sudden find out there's 10,000 angry Greeks ready to stomp the crap out of them. So the smarter thing for me to do here is not just waste these guys, right? These are a valuable resource. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine them together. I'm going to get them to siege out this territory here, which will give me a little bit of war score while I wait for these sort of upper units here to get their act together, and then I can have a large force sieging that province. And probably what I would do here is I'd have like 10,000 troops siege this, and then 10,000 troops just hang out. And if the Byzantines want to form a very strong defense of this territory, I would always have some backup to come in and even the odds. Rocktane Zagievich, my liege, might I suggest making the Illuminati a spy master instead of Campa? I think he's more qualified emote due to the trained eye for these kinds of things. Very good point, Astral Seer. 10,000 angry Greeks, they're way more effective when they're 300 anyway. Yes. We will meet them at the hot gates where their numbers count for nothing. All right, let's unpause and see this gong show. So those victories that you're seeing there are just me popping raider units. One of the things that's difficult when you have a large empire like this is sort of keeping track of all of these smaller units. So I always want to keep an eye on what's happening in the southern part of Lombardy. Because again, the Basileus is not going to take this lying down. Although it's working out, my liege, I've managed to sow distrust between the ecumenical patriarch and his liege. This is exactly what I was hoping to do, actually. Let me bring up. So if I go under his vassals, what is his name? Genadios? Actually, you know, probably rank is the better way. So in this case here, I'm trying to create some distrust between these guys here, especially because he's a religious head. And for some reason, I was under the impression that he was giving a lot of troops, but that doesn't actually seem to be the case. But I remember there was some reason why I wanted to create a rift between these two. I'm sure I could watch my own VOD, but it's kind of embarrassing if you have to explain your strategy to yourself. Ask them their profession. If they start chanting, be scared. If they just name their profession, you're fine. You know, I'll be honest with you. Like, I was entertained watching 300. It's a really good-looking movie, but the story didn't do a whole lot for me. I think the thing that's nice about it is history is just filled with all of those wonderful little lines. So, you know, this... You know, we'll fight you in the shade. Things like that are all the ones that that you see in the classic sources. But so I'm glad that they had lots of great little one-liners in it, because that is definitely a very Spartan quality. But I felt like there were sort of some missed opportunities in terms of the drama that they could have done. Now, I did watch the movie again, and I think I was a little unfair to it. There were some parts that maybe I didn't quite appreciate the first time that I saw it. But yeah, it's definitely a movie that I like referencing if I didn't get as much. But I'll admit I think the movie could have been better. It was good, but it felt like they could have done more. Almost like V for Vendetta, actually. So V for Vendetta is an absolutely fantastic comic. I loved the movie, and then I read the comic, and I'm like, oh my god, it's like they were trying to make something worse than the book. It was really disappointing, because I think there were actually some things that didn't sit right with me in the movie that would have been fixed if they followed the book. Oh, Skunk Odor. What have we got here? We've got Hacker of Drow, Fleeming Fury, Bloodshade. Hey guys, thank you very much for the raid. We've got Tony Loren and now Skunk Odor hosting us. It's actually been, I lurked in, I don't even know if he knew I was in there, but I've lurked in Skunk Odor's chat a couple of times, but I should feel bad because normally I like to interact a little bit more with my Team Panda comrades, but Skunk Odor is a member of Team Panda, which is the group that's been put together by the partnered streamers. Seriously Clara, absolutely wonderful streamer in her own right, and somebody who has put together a group of very talented people, and me. But he is... the best thing that I can actually recommend is just go up to my name and click on Team Panda, and you'll see what's going on there. But what were you playing tonight, Skunk Odor? The others are cowards, you're training them? Are you training them to be cowards? Hey, Brookie Johnson does. Yes, Hacker of Dry, I remember you from before. Hound Cave Productions, good to see you again. All the good people are here tonight. But yeah, what were you playing, Skunk? I wanted to say Diablo, but I thought that's Ewok if I'm not losing my marbles. He failed in Until Death. Can you fail in that game? I will actually say this is one thing that I've been playing Penumbra Overture, and it's occurred to me that I don't even want to say it's a guilty pleasure. I think it's actually just it's just something I really like, but it never occurred to me how much I like the horror genre in games, and like I get really into them. Like I am a baby when it comes to horror games, but I think they're really good. I like Amnesia, I like Outlast. I've been playing an indie called Hector, which isn't perfect, but it's got enough going for it that I'm entertained. And even Penumbra, which is very clearly sort of a first, I guess it's not technically the first effort of Frictional, but it really feels like it. But even then, for an imperfect game like that, it's a very well crafted piece of gaming. So. Who just followed? Brookie Johnson, thank you very much for that follow, my friend. Been a little bit more... it's been a bit slower tonight, I think probably just because I started with Secret Ponchos and getting a little frustrated with some of the technical issues. So, thank you guys for supporting me, even when I'm not on top of my game. Yes, it just occurred to me, Astral Seer, how mean that sounds. He let down your favorite character. What's my mic setup? I have a Audio-Technica AT2020 USB mic. I believe if you go on Amazon, the Plus version is now cheaper than the AT2020, but that's certainly not the case when I bought this. And I am told that I have some natural endowment of vocal qualities, so... as much as I'd like... I guess I should have read that text for you guys. As much as I would like to say that the mic will make everybody sound the way they want to. Fleeming Fury, thank you very much for that follow. Skunk, I owe you. I always get sulky if I don't have follows, and I already actually had a couple, but and I'm very grateful to have all of them. But you guys are spoiling me with new fresh blood for the channel. So guys, thank you very much for that support. I know Crusader Kings is not the kind of game that everybody likes, so it always means something when you guys threw that follow. But yeah, oh, thank you, Smegma Ravioli. But yeah, so it's and then, I mean, I have a pop filter on it, like all the standard stuff that you get on it. But in this case, the big defect of my setup is that I'm streaming on a Mac, which means I have a very rough version of OBS running on this. It causes a lot of problems. And I also have a very poor internet connection. But as far as... audio is concerned, I'm very happy with this mic. Some people would argue that the XLR version is better. I think that would be assuming that you already have a mixer. I don't, and so I didn't see the value in purchasing an XLR version just so I could do the digital conversion. I recognize that you're giving up a little bit of control because you need to convert the analog signal from the mic into a digital one, but I think audiophiles tend to get very focused on things like audio to digital conversion. In my opinion, the sound of this is good enough, and I think there are environment improvements that I could make to make the sound better on the stream rather than just, worry about what type of cable I'm running. So I'm very happy with this mic. It's certainly not it's not a cheap mic, but for the quality of mic that you're getting, I would say it's affordable. I mean, when I started streaming, and I'm still under a year in streaming. I actually started off just with my natural mic on my my headset. I won them at my university's gaming club. They're Creative Labs. What is it? Rage, I think they're called. I don't know. They look like they're a pair of tin cans, and they've got lights in the ears, so I look like a complete tool wearing them. But yeah, once I decided I was going to do streaming, I thought I'd put a little capital towards improving it, and a good mic sort of seemed to be the way to go. So. Flaming Fury's voice is somewhat seductive. Oh god, sorry guys, I missed out on some chat. So, CPO is calling me smooth jazz voice. Thank you very much. Let's go to the voice of pure sexual healing. What have you been up to that requires sexual healing? Spank Ravioli uses AT2020 as a drum overhead, so I have nothing new to tell you about this mic then. Hound Cave loves Crusader Kings. I'm glad to hear that. Eventually, hopefully, I'll do Europa as well, but I certainly enjoy Crusader Kings too, and I know I've committed to doing it every Friday. Skunk is Senpai? Of course he is. And I seem cool. Well, that's very kind of you, Brookie Johnson. I'll do my best, although cool is not the first adjective that comes to mind when I think of myself. And they're very good mics. The USB converters seem not to be very good. Yeah. So and in my case too, like I'm not, I'm by no means an audio expert. So in my case, keeping things as simple as I could was a bit of a priority, because I knew that this would be a piece of hardware that I'd be buying for my stream, and that would be it until I graduated. So in this case here, I'm okay with what I've given up. Fury, please don't creep on your Crown Panda. As long as the USB is grounded, it should be just as good as an XLR. Okay, that's good to know, Spring. And the emotional ride that was Until Dawn motion control. Okay, now I really want to go back and check Skunk Odor's video, but I promised you guys some Crusader Kings 2 playthroughs, so I caught up on channel. I'll start reading some dialogue. My liege, I'm pleased to report that your errant subject Elrich has been converted to the Catholic faith, plays the Blessed Virgin. I would be much more impressed if you got rid of the Waldesian heresy. The steward has some interesting ideas about how to improve the economy, and it's only 18 gold for a bonus on the rate, so that is extremely affordable. I will take it. I've had a little bit more success in getting our troops organized, so we're starting to head towards the important parts of Lombardy to do terrible things to the Greeks. You'll notice that our vassal limit has gone up. That was actually the work of some of my vassals having some infighting. I'll deal with that when the war is over. I don't want to mess around with it a little bit too much, especially because the borders are going to be redrawn once this war is done. And you'll notice I sometimes click out the messages. There's a standardized form for these, so I do I read them, but there's a lot of stuff that you can skip over. I usually just kind of look at the names and make sure that nothing crazy's happened. You know, if my heir dies, that's important. If so-and-so is mad at somebody else because they, I don't know, screwed the other guy's sheep or something like that, that's not that important. My Emperor, word has reached me that your Count Chaplain has accused me of heresy. I implore you as a devout Catholic to another devout Catholic to believe me when I tell you I am not a heretic. So he likes me for 50, and my Chaplain likes me for 100. So one of the things that happens here in this game is if your vassals like you less than the Pope, then the money goes to the Pope. Oh, by the way, we conquered Rome, so the Rome currently doesn't. The Pope doesn't actually have any territory. He's still the head of the church. He's just, I own the Vatican, because we're terrible. So in this case here, this guy isn't actually giving me any money. I have no idea what he thinks of the Pope. He's a vassal of one of my other subjects. So in this case, I'll say, of course he's a heretic. I don't really care that he likes me less, because in this case, I want my court chaplain to like me more. Alright, I'll just pause for a second because we can assign some new commanders. This is something new that they've added in the game. And looks like we've got another 13, but everybody else has got a 13 military rank, so I'll keep things the way that they are. And again, notice we haven't done anything with the... We haven't actually directly engaged the Byzantine Empire yet, and that was just because we've been waiting for our reinforcements. So I think the best thing for me to do here is I will take these 7,000 troops, I'll try and cut off the 613, and then I'll just double back and move them on top of this 1,000 stack. To the most illustrious Emperor Pepin II, the good burghers of Amiens are barely able to pay their taxes. Our coffers are empty, and I humbly ask that you lower the taxes for your cities. So the nice thing here is that this is where the individual abilities of your ruler matter. Because I have a high diplomacy, I am able to flatter and soothe him, which means that I don't need to pay any money. I can say an absurd request, which means that my burghers will dislike me. But that, because they dislike me, again, I'll be getting less in tax revenue and less in terms of levies. Do very well. Now his opinion will increase on me, but I will cast a vote for minimal city taxes, which means lower overall revenue to the crown. I could bribe him, which is of course a fantastic way to deal with, why bother giving all the money to the citizens when you could just give it to the one guy on the top and keep your tax rates punitive. But in this case, words are a lot cheaper than the bribe. So in this case, I'll just flatter and soothe him. And again, if I didn't have that that diplomatic ability, I wouldn't. I would have had to pay. So gets there November 26th. So I believe we will catch up with them on time. All right, Fleeming. Oh, sorry, somebody's heading to bed. Who was that? Hacker of Drow, I basically learned this game on stream, so I think, it's a sandbox game. I don't think there's a wrong way to play. Well, I mean, there's ways that, you don't achieve your goals, but I think some of the fun is learning this stuff, so I don't think there's a way you can say you're so bad at it. Although, of course, if anybody ever has any questions, feel free to bring them up. We've got a couple of experts in here. Brookie Johnson is tired, hitting the sack. Good night. Have a great evening. Thank you very much for that follow. Hope I get a chance to see you again. We will be doing Shadowrun on Monday as a chance to hear me do some silly voices. Fleeming Fury, I think your comparisons are not bad. A lot of people compare this game to Total War. I personally have not played the series that much, so I can't comment on it. The difference that I would say between this and Civilization is that Civilization is very much focused around the achievements of humanity. So that's a game about building wonders, and you take the role of a social planner, so you don't need to worry so much about people's responses to your policy choices, right? If you decide to turn the United States into a police state, well, the United States is going to become a police state. Nobody has any say in it. If you do that in Crusader Kings 2, so for instance, if I want to change my laws, then I'm going to have to get my vassals to come on side. Or if I change my succession laws, so right now, agnatic, cognatic, gavelkind. Gavelkind means that my realm is divided amongst my heirs. Agnatic, cognatic means that sons get priority. If there are no sons able to inherit, then daughters get the inherit. You can also do pure agnatic if you want. But basically, in this case here, this game is a lot more about individual relationships and the actual day-to-day managing of a kingdom, whereas Civilization is much more of a celebration of humanity's achievements. So Crusader Kings 2, because it's sandboxy, actually allows you to have uneven starts, whereas Crusader Kings gives you uneven starts, whereas Civilization is a little bit more equal. And actually, if you're interested, there is a highlight where I was talking with a classics professor about games and the design decisions behind games like Civilization actually come up in that interview. So you have a Lord of the Rings Risk version, but you never played it? Okay, yeah, it's actually, so it may interest you to know that there is a Game of Thrones mod for this game. It's actually a very well done one. I would argue that some of their Empire mechanics are better implemented than what Paradox has brought in. This is not like Total War, although the new one in the series, Attila, is taking some from this game. Family politics have grown in import. Okay, that's good to know, actually, Astral Seer. Because originally I thought the Total War series was just purely a combat sim, and then I got to the parts where you started managing empires. But I'll definitely say there are very few games as complicated as Crusader Kings, so I think any analogy tends to be an imperfect one. And again, that is both the appeal of a game like this, but also its detriment, because sometimes, you just want to go to Disneyland. I am a fallen man. What was once a noble knight is now just a mere sinner. I am not a true knight. May God have mercy on my soul. True Christian knight will be removed from Emperor Pepin the Magnanimous. I didn't even know I had that. What does it do? Monthly piety of 0.05 and an improved temple vassal opinion. So that's a shame, but it's probably because I gained the Roth trait, which improves my martial but lowers my intrigue and diplomacy. I'm especially upset that I lost a little diplomacy, because that is going to be affecting my that's going to be affecting the vassal limit. Total War is about conquest. The new ones are definitely taking things from this game. Although it'll never be CK2 with 3D battles, I'm sure, yeah. Well, I mean, in the end, too, you want to focus on I don't think a game should ever try to be everything, right? I think Total War has some very interesting battle sequences, and I feel like if they tried to put a very complicated political system like this game in, it would be worse off for it, because in the end, you can focus on one or the other. Like I don't feel like it would be a good idea to try and mix. I mean, you don't have to specialize like crazy. Obviously, a lot of AAA titles do a very good job of blending genres, but I definitely feel like Crusader Kings 2 could probably have a little bit more expanded combat, and I actually think Game of Thrones sort of addresses that. There's sort of your character's individual combat ability compared to their ability to lead. In this case, it definitely feels a lot more like, just get a very large number of troops and throw them at the smaller number of troops, and that's how you conduct war. And I feel like there's a little bit more subtlety that can be brought into the game. But other than that, I think Crusader Kings hits a right balance between the strategic elements and the combat elements. Why is my Dynasty flag just white? I suspect that this is probably just a Mac issue, but I noticed that a lot of the Western flags are, or crests or shields or whatever, are glitched since the most recent patch. So a really good example of this would be if I go to the Umayyad, and you've got another example here where, clearly there's a texture, but it sure as hell isn't the one that's supposed to be there. Now, curiously enough, not the case for India. So India doesn't have any of the problems with their textures. But for whatever reason, I mean, I've said it a couple times before, I try not to turn this cast into completely complaining about Paradox the whole time, but I really think they need to improve on their customer service. I definitely think they need to become a more consumer-friendly group. And I think the issues that I'm having with the shields are an example of it, right? This is something that has been there and has been known since that patch was released, and they've not seen fit to fix it. So it's one of the reasons why I usually recommend people wait to pay for their stuff, because in the end they're going to respond to financial incentives. And yeah, Astral Seer, it's definitely not. I mean, the stream quality is awful. That's a function of my internet, but it's a white flag on my end too. A release make my ravioli, so you don't have. In this case, the shield isn't a problem for you. That's actually really interesting to me if that's the case. Maybe I'll do like a. I could probably do like a verify cache integrity on Steam or something like that and see if that's the problem. Curiously enough, though, I've actually never had a problem with multiplayer. We had CPO. I got to play a game with CPO Williams and my friend A Newcomb, And, well, not that CPO isn't a friend, but my friend from high school. And multiplayer seemed to be pretty bloodless. We couldn't go past a certain speed, but I suspect that has something to do with my latency. Alright, have a great one, Astral Seer. Sorry there wasn't as much gameplay for you tonight, but we'll see you either Monday for Shadowrun, or we'll see you next Friday. We probably won't be doing Secret Ponchos before, so we'll have a good proper playthrough. Quality's not too bad, you've seen worse. Okay, that's good to know, Fleeting Fury. But yeah, I don't have a very good bandwidth, so I sort of know that I have limitations, and I just, you know, in the end, it dictates the kinds of games that I play. I play, you know, games that are either turn-based or basically games that promote me to be a little more thoughtful, because in the end, you know, I sort of know I have the strength of the vocal qualities, and the, you know, the more academic approach to games. So in that case, you know, I actually really like first-person games. I also like action platformers. There's quite a few different genres that I like that I don't play on stream just because I don't necessarily think they fit the format as well given my technological limitations. But that also created opportunities because, again, I didn't think Crusader Kings 2 was going to be that popular, and yet it's something that's that had enough demand to get its own streaming day, which is today. Glad to hear it, Astral. I mean, there's certainly no shortage of talking on this stream, as I'm sure you already know. But I'm glad it worked for you. So have a good one, and we'll look forward to seeing you again. And that's so I'm running the same OS as you, Smega Ravioli. I think I'm going to do a verify integrity and see if that's maybe the source of the problem. But on Snow Leopard, the textures are out of whack. That's really weird that that's happening. I actually had, so one of my audio capture programs actually had issues that were supposed to come up in Yosemite and didn't, sorry, they were supposed to come up in Snow Leopard and they didn't come up for me, but once I took on Yosemite, they caused problems. So I kind of want to know why that happens. CK2 isn't as popular as it should be, but those of us who love it are diehard fans. I think that's a very fair way of putting it. The one thing I will give credit to Paradox for is that I like the fact that they've made a game where they are not afraid of people being turned off by complexity. And it seems, I haven't played them that long and I don't know a lot of it, but it really seems like they're getting a better job with each iteration of the series. They are coming up with better ways to manage that complexity. So, as we talk about a few times over here, the visual display of information. Right now, the most relevant information to me is the political divisions of the world, but sometimes religion, culture, or wealth will be more relevant. And so there's a lot, just switching between these tabs or just being able to look at my individual profile, being able to guide the eye to the important pieces of information and allow you to make effective decisions, to me is it's a challenge, but it's a good one. I think one of the best UIs you can think about is actually Civilization 5, because if you think about it right, you can get into the nitty-gritty about how you allocate your different citizens into how to manage your empire or your individual city. Or you can just click the governor, and that'll be automated. So that's another example of a really good UI which tells you what you need to know. And it's nice, like in Civilization, you don't need to go to that layer if you don't want to, or if you don't think it's relevant. So it'd be wonderful if you could get a collaboration between Paradox and Firaxis to create, a beautiful and super complex history game. Duke Olio of Salerno has given me bizarre and repulsive evidence concerning Bishop Admar. It's always the bishops, man. Sexual preferences. How do I use this juicy information? Well, first of all, okay, so he's my court chaplain. He is a scholarly theologian, honest, cruel, proud, ambitious, and greedy. So between ambitious and cruel, I'm going to assume it's 50 Shades of Grey. But in this case, I'm going to keep it to myself because he's my court chaplain. Now again, we already knew we were going to win this war when we undertook it. But this is kind of the appeal of this maneuver, right? We're already getting some war score from taking on this area. We've cut... Whoa! I think I put too many troops in here. That can only support 10,000. So I just killed a bunch of my guys unnecessarily. So in this case, we'll go for 5,000. It's a little risky. But I'll just make sure that they are... I'll just make sure the comrades are close by. But what we've done here is that, remember that total that the Byzantines had. In fact, we've had a little while. So they're up to 17,000 troops. Or down to 17,000 troops, rather. Or wait, there were 16 before. So they have actually increased in number. Some of these troops are going to be coming from this part of the empire, so we've already cut them off from one source of troops. No indication in terms of where the rest are coming from. I do have the advantage of having a diplomat in their capital at the moment, so if I see anybody sort of cross over to here, I should have enough of an early warning. It is going to take me a little while to get these guys into place, though. So in this case here, I just sort of I take the easy fights where I can and just siege out as many provinces as I can find. All right, so one irrelevant religious head has been replaced by another irrelevant religious head. I will set up an anti-pope eventually, but probably when I've united Christianity under my banner. So you get a little bit of military technology from battles, which is another another sort of appeal for that. I actually never did the rest of my technology, did I? I'm actually going to pause for this. So one feature of this game is, again, as we already talked about in chat, we've got a game which is a focus on the dynasty. So Carolingian dynasty. What I want to do here is educate the child, and this is going to be the character that assuming he doesn't die, this is going to be the character that I'm playing next. So I want to sort of think about what my priorities for the next generation is going to be. One thing that I'm going to need is money. In fact, one thing that I'll usually look for in my rulers is a high stewardship, because I've sort of been neglecting the infrastructure of my realm. The other thing that I want, though, is a fairly high diplomacy. Military is also important. But at least in the case of the military, I can appoint a commander to lead my troops. So I'm still going to have fewer troops than I would like, but stewardship and diplomacy are going to be deciding things like the size of my realm. So let's just see. The maximum diplomacy I can get is 20, but I would need to go for some pretty lame stats otherwise. In fact, all of these high diplomacy options are basically looking at single digits in the other relevant stats. So instead, we sort by stewardship. And this is kind of what I'm looking for here. It'd be nice if we had a higher military, but we have other ways of working with that. Again, intrigue, not that great. Still single digits for learning, but 9 is a perfectly respectable number. I think like 8 is supposed to be average. So in this case, we've got a fairly okay diplomacy, okay stewardship. And the fact of the matter is we're not really going to get anything better. I don't want to have 23 stewardship and 2... diplomacy. I don't want to have 20 diplomacy and like 5 stewardship or whatever the other one was. So in this case, we will go for the ugly, temperate, gregarious, wroth, cynical, just, stressed, 34-year-old. I wanted to see. She should show up as a guardian in a second. She is married. Okay. Yeah, you got an ugly wife. You're off for a decent night's sleep for a change, Skunk Order. Try not to have too many nightmares. Have a wonderful cast, and see you soon, I'm sure. Absolutely. It's great to have you stream the... You've actually been very generous with your hosts. And I feel like I missed somebody, actually. We've got 3. Astral Seer, I'm sorry, I completely missed you hosting this stream. So you are probably gone right now. But thank you for doing that, and I will be sure to thank you the next time that you're in, assuming you're not watching the VOD or something like that. But Skunk Odor, great to have you in here. I definitely feel like I have been seeing you in my stream more often than I've been going to yours, so I apologize for that, and I'm looking forward to the next time I hang out. Until Dawn looks really good, so I am looking forward to see you play that. Have a great sleep, my friend, and I am looking forward to the next chance I get to see you, whether that is on Slack, on Twitch, or visually seeing you. Why the hell did they put a straight crossing from South Italy to Greece? Well, what can I say? I'm happy with it. I know if this is I think in Europa Universalis, the way that you would do a crossing like this is you'd actually have to have transport ships. So there's an entirely different strategy behind having a real fleet. Alright, so we just have a couple of factions show up, so this gives me a chance to show you how these mechanics work. I'm not too worried about the strength, to be completely honest. Oh, another irrelevant pope getting replaced by yet another irrelevant pope. But in this case, I don't really want this stuff to metastasize, so in this case I'm going to stop stealing technology, and I'm just going to move my Spy Master to discourage people from being members of factions. Starting up another Until Dawn playthrough next week. Looking forward to it. And for those of you who've not already given Skunk Odor a follow, as always with all of the Team Panda members, it's very hard to think of somebody in there who I do not enjoy hanging out with. I think you've gotten a chance to sort of see what these guys' personalities are like in stream. But all wonderful people, great to hang out with. If you're ever, I mean, I know I don't stream that very often, so if you're ever at a loss in terms of what to look for, definitely feel free to go to that page. If you're not following the individual casters, I would recommend it. But even if you just want to try out something new, clicking on that link will put you in touch with people who are maybe not united in terms of the types of games that they play, but certainly in the kinds of personalities. I think Claire has done a very good job of putting together a very good community. My lord, there is a noble warrior at the gate. He says that he is a veteran of many battles and desires to become a champion of your house. He praises the wisdom and honor and pledges to always defend you and your household if you will accept him into your retinue. Welcome. It's actually worth mentioning, I had a commander that I appointed a while ago, and it's sort of interesting to see how the commander has changed the structure of the game. So I'll actually take a minute and see. So it looks like he is a better commander than my current marshal. So I think I'll actually put him in his place. So by appointing somebody my marshal, if I get them to do a mission like this, like improve my technology, they're not actually going to be leading any of my armies. So originally where the marshal would be one of your best soldiers, you're now sort of taking one of your best commanders and benching them so that you can achieve some other goal. Now in this case, I definitely think it's worth it. But excuse me, the commander mechanic has made you think a little bit more about who you assign to those particular roles, and basically how you're structuring your armies, how you're structuring your vassals. Oh, we finished sieging this province out. Can I support? I think I can. I'm a little... So one thing I'm worried about here is that I'm moving sort of my backup into a part of the country that can't immediately reply to Byzantine aggression. Well, I say Byzantine aggression, but let's face it, I'm the one who's declared war on them. Can I scroll out of the map? Sure, I'm the mighty. And they are growing. So if you're interested, this was a play... We started as Charlemagne. I'm relatively new to the game, so the first full Iron Man playthrough we did was an Old God start as the Count of Westmoreland, founded Britannia, and just kind of conquered everything that we could. And in this case, we played Charlemagne, who did not found the Holy Roman Empire. That was left to Carloman's son, Pepin. And at this point, we've just been... Obviously, with Charlemagne, we started at the earliest date, 769, and we're now at 846, having founded the Holy Roman Empire, and are slowly expanding it and running into the vassal cap, which, however easy a Charlemagne start is, you certainly learn the limits of vassals. Still not quite sure how I'm handling it, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, so the one problem that I have with the movements that I'm making here is that I am leaving myself open to 18,000 angry Greeks coming to kill me. I'm hoping that they're still tied up with the Abbasids. But I am sort of... This is kind of a suboptimal positioning. I am still keeping it, though, because... Like, in the end, think about the worst that can happen. They get taken out, it's only 5,000 troops that I lose. If it's a force of 10,000, I can bring in my 6,000 guys to reinforce them. Ideally, I don't lose anybody, but I still have the option of mercenaries. I still have a few other options to make sure that the numbers are in my favor. So I'm okay doing this so I can try and tick up the war score as much as I can, but there is a little bit of a risk in what I'm doing here. For instance, if I was the Byzantine Empire myself, what I would be doing right now is sending, like if this is a multiplayer game and I was playing against a human, what I would be doing here is sending ships out to see the positioning of these troops. And if I saw that it was scattered around, what I would be doing is I'd be hitting this stack with everything that I've got, because I know they wouldn't be able to get troops back there in time. Still not a fan of getting out kingdom title system. I am not, Shivor. I'm probably going to have to do it because like right now I'm getting the last of the low-hanging fruit, so I'm turning these counts into dukes. But I suspect I am probably going to, I'm going to have, I'm going to run out of conquests before I can do it. The biggest problem that I actually have right now is that I already have one king as a vassal. It's the Queen of Bohemia, and she's actually been doing work. She's already got little bits of England, so I want to hold off empowering these kings just because eventually I am going to take away these titles from them when I have the imperial authority, and the weaker I can keep them, the happier I'll be. But eventually what I'm going to do is I'm going to have more sons, and I'll start handing out. I'll probably I don't want to give away Lombardy because this character is has a Lombard culture. It'd be great if I could get the Iron Crown achievement by hanging on to that myself. But it basically eventually just start slowly handing out king titles to my sons, and and then eventually I get the succession laws that I want, and I'll be able to handle it. So we are eventually going to get to a point where I have to make kings vassals, but I'm resisting that day as long as I possibly can. I the Mighty has taken over the whole world using Estonia. Oh my god. Okay, let me just take a look and see how they're doing now. Well, they're... Not only are they independent, but they've got 2 whole counties. So, a mighty 742 troops to their name. 505, so I guess combined forces would be... Oh wait, no, that's that guy's vassals, so in this case that would be including the vassal troops. Suffice to say, I the Mighty, they are not meeting with the same success that you had before. It's actually, World Conquest is a tough one for me, because as the Count of Westmoreland, I definitely had success in achieving military goals, but I found the time that it took to get CBs really slowed down a lot of my progress. So is it because, I guess these guys are pagan, right? But like, did you need to do anything like break truces, or were you able just to take the conquest in terms of some kind of trait that would allow you to declare war on people? Like, once I got to areas I could declare holy wars with, I found that my conquests were a little bit faster. But trying to take over England was like pulling teeth, just because I always needed to try and get some kind of a CB. There's the option of viceroyalty. Yeah, my ideal would be to do viceroyalties, but I suspect I'm going to have to give people the titles sooner than that. It's like legalism 3 that you need, or 4? Legalism 4. So we're currently at 2. Oh yeah, I said I was going to throw Technology. So, I mean, it'd be nice to hold out for legalism. I've got a 92% advance penalty. I would need 200 more in cultural advances to be perfectly honest. I think it's better for me to just... I mean, the gains that I'll be getting from things like noble customs and the ability to build universities and things like that, I think are going to be better than waiting out legalism. So we'll upgrade for noble customs and wait for the next opportunity to present himself. Right, my liege, it pains me to say it, but there is a traitor in your realm. The rotten egg is plotting your downfall, and I enclose the damning evidence in this letter. So, that is Wilcar of Flanders, -50. She already has -5 opinion of me, so evidence this is nonsense. And it actually looks like independence is the faction that I should have been more worried about. Is that achievement at 1200? Yeah, it's far into the future, so I mean, I may not be able to get it, but it seems like a good enough opportunity that I'll go for it. And Yeshiver, I've not actually finished a Charlemagne era playthrough. I've only done an Old Gods to the end of the game. Obviously, I talk a lot in between streams, so it also winds up being longer than it normally should be. But it's really, I will say, like, there's a couple of experiences that I consider to be very rewarding ones. And playing a full round of Crusader Kings 2 in Iron Man mode, going from Count to Empire, and a substantial Empire at that, is one of them. Beating Dark Souls without guides is another. And I know everybody's really excited for the day that I have a proper streaming PC so that I can do a Dark Souls stream. Dark Souls 3 will probably be out, so it'll be a trilogy that I can do. So I definitely say it's rewarding, but it's very time consuming. But again, that's the appeal of games like this, right? Even if you think of it like wargaming as a hobby, is one where, you know, you have these games which people set up in a basement and maybe they don't finish the campaign, so they just leave everything set up and they get back to it the next week or something like that. There's definitely a place for games like this, and I'm glad that somebody provides them. Although their DLC model sort of seems to treat people like war games as well, because it's certainly very high cost for things that don't cost quite what you think they're charging. Pagans can start wars without any valid CBs. Okay, good to know, Eithermind. I kind of suspected that would be the case, but again, I sort of betray... I can't, like, maybe it's wrong for me to say that I'm new to the game. Like, clearly I am explaining the game in a very rudimentary way to people who are unfamiliar with the title on this stream. But, you know, I've completed a single Iron Man playthrough. And anytime I've played the game, I am just doing an Indian playthrough privately on my own on the off air. Like, sometimes I want to play Crusader Kings 2 and I'm not going to stream it, so I figured I'd do an independent playthrough. That one, depending on how much free time I have after grad school starts, I might finish before this playthrough. But yeah, suffice to say, I haven't had a chance to play Pagan, so... You know, it seems like it would make sense that you don't have the same issues, but, you know, I'm not gonna make a claim to knowledge that I don't have. You don't think Estonia is hard at all for world conquest? And you wouldn't say that's accurate. They can make tributaries, but unless your ambition is to become king, you can only subjugate one ruler in your lifetime. Oh, okay. I expect both of you to settle this like men and open up a private lobby. One of you plays the Abbasids, one of you plays the Byzantine Empire. The rise of the Shia. The schism at the heart of Islam dates back to the earliest days. The majority of Sunnis have long persecuted the followers of Ali, the Shias, forcing them into hiding. The partisans of Ali look to his descendants for leadership, but they are forced to keep their ancestry secret. Now, though, the Shias are mobilizing their strength behind a boy who they claim to be Ali's rightful heir and imam. Other Islamic jurists claim that the boy is clearly a fraud, but to his followers he is the person that they have been waiting for, and now they flock to his banner. Ha! The fools fight amongst themselves. For those of you interested in the Sunni-Shia divide, I don't have a lot of reading of that personally, but there is a magazine that I subscribe to that I'm very fond of called Foreign Affairs. That's published by a group called the Council on Foreign Relations, And they have a series of backgrounders. So they did one on the Trans-Pacific Partnership and some of its political implications. And they actually have, in my opinion, a fairly good backgrounder on the Sunni-Shia divide. Now, my friend who is a Muslim mentioned a couple of I think it would be fair to say he considered them inaccuracies. But I think, at least so far as taking this very, I guess, arcane bit of history and introducing sort of how that is shaped, I guess shaped the region and some of the concerns. You know, the question that you always ask in these, these situations is, why does the states commit itself to military action in this country but not that country, so on and so forth. I think they call it the Sunni-Shia divide, but it's published by the Council of Foreign Relations. It's a very attractive website, and I actually thought it did a very nice little background on it, both from a historical perspective, but also giving you some indications in terms of some of the events in history that have had an influence on modern headlines. So for those of you who are interested in that kind of stuff, I don't recall the link, but I'm fairly certain a Google search will it'll probably be one of the first things that comes up. You can also, I think if you go to like CFR.org and just search through their backgrounders on the Middle East, you'll probably find that there as well. But I don't know, it's for those of you who are interested in that kind of reading, it's something that I found entertaining enough to read through. So looks like Either Mighty's sharing his Estonia strategy. So we've got wait until a nearby kingdom goes to war, then all you have to do is declare war, occupy the territories that you can, and make the opposing rulers surrender for. Yeah, okay. It's actually kind of what I'm doing with the Byzantines here, though, although I certainly had enough troops to take them in the end. People don't seem to join conquest like holy wars. That is actually the one thing that I'm always nervous about. The Umayyads are extremely weak over here, but if the Abbasid Empire decides to jump in, I have a feeling I'm going to have a rather unfortunate number of followers of the Prophet demanding my blood. My prisoner Sibylla is complaining about her dark cell in the dungeon, asking for more suitable accommodations. Let her rot. Actually, so here's a question for you guys. I've got a number of Greeks who are saying that the prison is not quite to the same standards as the finery of Constantinople. I guess I can end this war. Yeah. Most excellent Emperor Pepin II, peace be with you. We surrender under these terms. His opinion of... Oh yeah, my duke likes it because I gave him territory. And Count Nyctius becomes the new liege. Although I don't get any prestige. I just want to decline this for now to see... I'm actually a little curious what happens when I press the claim. Huh. Okay. I thought I was going to get some prestige, but apparently not. For each Catholic mechanic, there is an equivalent... Oh yeah, so sorry guys. The question I was going to have was... the house arrest. I know it will affect the person who is imprisoned's diplomacy, but the question that I have is, as a ruler, why would I ever be interested in putting somebody in house arrest? I mean, the oubliette would be so I don't have to worry about them again. But as far as a house arrest is concerned, it seems to me that if you're going to be making a condition under which somebody can possibly escape, why would I ever be so foolish as to do that? Holy Roman Ducal War for Duke Gandalf II's claim on Bryn Brindisian has ended. Emperor Pepin II of the Holy Roman Empire has won. Alright. So here I just take a minute to put them back in my territory. We accomplished what we were looking for here, so notice that we've sort of sealed off. Now again, the Byzantines are going to be able to siege out this territory. It's not like I've stopped them from being able to take the territory, but the important thing to remember here is that when I go to war for this territory, this is the war goal. So if I hold it, my war score goes up. If they hold it, their war score goes up. Now, any other war that I fight in this region is going to be for something that I have sort of a positional advantage in. I mean, arguably the island, we're equally matched on that. You know, whoever can get their ships there faster is, I guess, is going to have the edge. But for the majority of these wars, I'm going to be laying siege to a province which, you know, is well within my territory. So the Byzantines can certainly siege out this province, but in the end, it's not going to have as big of an impact on the war score as, you know, as say taking the territory that we're fighting about. So when the Byzantines were weak, the reason I chose this region over these other ones here is because it's a goal I know that I can achieve fairly simply in this situation. And if there's a more fair fight with the Byzantine Empire, in the end, the territory that they need to cross to be able to get here is something that's not going to affect the war score that much. So in this case, this was sort of the best positioning, and I'm setting myself up for the next few generations of wars. All right, and sorry, Smega was saying that there was a Catholic mechanic, an equivalent pagan mechanic of sorts in a different way. If you sacrifice piety for a holy army instead of prestige for a tribal army. Okay, yeah, no, I can see that from tooling around on Ireland after Astral recommended it. Holy orders don't exist from the start yet. Prestige is much easier to get than piety, especially if you can raid. I mean, ironically, all of my rulers tend to have higher piety than the Pope in my English playthrough, but I definitely can see how it works out that way. I mean, in the end, though, you only need to look at my scores, and my prestige is definitely higher. I am starving my troops to death. That's not good. So the reason I am making my troops stand down in my own territory is if I were to lower them now, I would only have 7,688 of 15,674. So why execute half of my army when I just wait a little while and I can move them to my own territory? Fate smiles upon me, and my wife, Frutlina, is pregnant. I don't remember my retinue being this big, but I'm very happy that it is. I guess we'll go punch some raiders, but we're probably not going to get there on time. And we've got angry factions to deal with, so let's... My Spy Master's not really doing his job, but let's get him to deal with the nastier of the factions. I believe we still have heresy. Yes, we do. And there's not really a point in sowing dissent with the Byzantine Empire. So... Oh, tribal armies stay as long as you're not at peace, so you can just chain war and conquer Europe in one swoop. Ah, okay. Yeah, and so yes, Mega Ravioli was actually asking about how I keep my vassals in line. So, Shavar, you might actually be able to help him a little bit better than me in terms of making sure that the realm doesn't get ripped apart by revolutions. Alright, what was I going to do? Oh yeah, I needed to find a better use for my Chancellor. So in this case, because I've got a couple factions coming after me, and I know I'm past the honeymoon period, I think now I'm going to try and improve relations. The Queen of Bavaria seems like a good place to start. For whatever reason, I'm never quite sure why it is. So the ideal situation would be for me to revoke the Kingdom of Bavaria, and yet it grays out the option. Now, usually when I you know, put a mouse over the question mark, it'll give me a condition that I need to fulfill to be able to undertake it. It just gives me a success condition that I'm holding the title. Requirements are blank. So I'm assuming this has something to do with my crown authority. But in that case, it still doesn't say, like in this case, it says vassal titles can no longer pass outside the realm through inheritance. So, you know, I'm kind of guessing on a lot of this stuff. All right, now one thing that I was going to do, so the reason why we undertook this particular war, in addition to just, you know, expanding my my territory, was to make sure that my vassal limits are under control. So first thing is we have the Duke of Bari. This is part of the Duchy of Bari. Oh, sorry, not Duchy of Bari. The Duchy of Apulia. Sorry, I'm not very good at these pronunciations. So what we'll do here is we will just transfer this count to the appropriate... Wait a minute. Why can't I do this? Designated regent. That must be for the Greeks. Okay, so he's a count. Oh, he's already... Okay, so he's already set. I thought it was weird that he was in there. So what I want to be doing right now is... the question that you have for a game like this, especially if you play something like Civilization, is, well, why don't you just personally own everything, right? You're king, you can do whatever you want. And the reason that the game has... We talked about this a little bit before already. The game puts in caps in terms of vassal limits and domain size, so the number of personal holdings that you have. So what happened was we were originally at 49 out of 45, and then there was some kind of a revolution that happened. And it seems like I wound up with another... it seems like I wound up with another ruler. Or another vassal, that is. So what I'm going to do here is I just want to make sure that all of the vassals that I have, if they're counts because I don't have the duchy yet. So a good example of this would be the Count of Corsica. In this case, this is part of the theme of Sardinia, which will eventually become the duchy. And in this case, I can't usurp it because you need to have a certain percentage of it. Oh, hang on. Oh, and in this case, cannot usurp the sole primary title of a ruler of another religion who still holds lands within it. So in this case, we're going to have to fight them for it anyway. But in this case, I'm okay keeping him as a count because one day he's going to become a duke. Or I'll assign somebody a duke of this area, and he's just going to get folded into that. So in this case, I consider this a duke in waiting, basically. Converting to feudal is a terrible idea typically, because you lose a trial. Oh, I've never even thought about doing a playthrough of this game as... Well, actually, no, that's not true. I want to play Merchant Republic. The Republic was like the first DLC I ever bought. Yeah, I've never even thought about playing something that's not... sorry, playing a non-feudal group. All right. So, like, again, I don't necessarily mind having counts because some of them will be people who are turning into dukes. This is another good example here where we've got the currently the Count of Capua, but I believe I can't claim that duchy yet.
I would never want to belong to any club that would have someone like me for a member.
Is it DJ? Let me just wait till my desktop says that. Thank you very much for the follow. I will do my best to not... Well, no, I think I'll do my best to butcher your name, actually. But I will at least say your name as best as I can when it shows up on my dashboard. But welcome to the stream. Thank you very much for showing that support. All right. Is it DJ Orge Magi? Or is it Jord Magi? Either one, welcome. Thank you very much for hitting the follow button. It's definitely always a very welcome show of support. We're actually closing into another milestone. It feels like we were just at 300 a little while ago, and now we're at 385, I think? 384 or 385. And Felspil says that Merchant Republics are addictive. I mean, I kind of, in Europa Universalis 4, I wanted to play Venice right away, but then I found out the Holy Roman Empire really puts a cap on a lot of your ambitions, so it wasn't quite as enjoyable as I thought it was going to be. But, oh, I don't want to claim the County of Capua. I want to claim the Duchy. What's going on with that? And I can't, so this is a better example. In this case, you need 51% of the holding. So in this case, I'm actually going to need to claim Neapolis before I can create the duchy. So again, this is another duke in waiting. I'm perfectly happy having him in here. But at some point, I did gain another duke. And I need to figure out, or sorry, either another duke or another count. And if I can turn them into a vassal, I would. So another situation, and here we've got a duke in waiting, so I believe that takes care of all of my counts. So another thing that might have happened is one of those Bavarian holdings could have reverted back to me. So we've got queens, a bunch of dukes. And a couple of Prince Archbishoprics. Okay, so I believe this is still Bavarian. This is actually a tough call, because in one sense it would actually be better for me to take the vassalage of the Duke of Kent, but in this case here, again, I'd be adding to my vassal limit, which I want to avoid. So I think at this moment I will let Bavaria hang on to that. There's a side of me that thinks I could maybe even possibly transfer some of the duchies over to the Queen of Bavaria, but that might be relinquishing a little bit more power than I want. Well, no, actually, this makes sense. So if I give the duchies inside Bavaria to the Queen of Bavaria, then when the time comes, I just take the kingdom title, and I have, you know, and I get all those vassals anyway. So let's see. Realistically, let's actually see how many of these things I can give away. So I'm assuming she has to have the Duchy of Bavaria. Yeah. Tyrol, I believe, is one of mine. Yeah. So again, this is a little bit of a risky one, just because in the end I am empowering somebody who doesn't necessarily have the greatest opinion of me. But this is going to be freeing up a few of my slots and sort of get myself into a position where I am sharing the power a little bit more. The other good thing too is that where I'm not necessarily adding to any of my holdings in Bohemia, this will also give an incentive to this particular ruler to expand the empire. So let's transfer. Is this right? Yeah, that's a Bavarian holding. Sorry, guys, I've been missing out on a little bit of chat. Okay, great. Thank you, George. It definitely makes my job a lot easier. Okay, I'm getting a lot of recommendations to play Tribal. So, actually, CPO Williams donated to the stream for me to get Horse Lords. We're not playing with that right now because that would have messed with the Iron Man save. But the next playthrough, I was actually going to try and do a playthrough where I found or refound the Roman Empire, the proper Roman Empire, like where I go for the achievement. But clearly, the Call of the Steeps is too much in that case. So the next playthrough will be Mongolian for sure. Can you play the Byzantine Empire as a noob? Well, I will say as a whole, and again, this is my personal opinion, so take it or leave it. But in my opinion, the experience of learning is probably best done in a smaller entity. So the way I like to explain it is, the first game I played on Iron Man was just the County of Westmoreland. So I'm not going to have a very deep talent pool. 23 sounds good. But in the end, I'm going to have 5 advisors to manage one small piece of land. And this was actually in an Old Gods round 2. So York becomes Jorvik, and sure enough, there's going to be a bunch of angry Scandinavians coming to take my territory. But I don't necessarily mind being a vassal under a Viking overlord, right? I'm going to have to pay tribute to somebody if they speak some strange Bork accent. Apologies, I know I have Scandinavian viewers. That's purely me being an ass. But yeah, I mean, the fact that they, the fact that they talk funny is not really going to affect me that much, right? So, in this case here, I've got 5 different people who can manage this one very small piece of territory, and in the end, there's only so many vassals that you can have, right? Now, if we take something like, in my case, the Holy Roman Empire, or something like the Byzantine Empire, I've got a very large territory. I've got people, all of whom want to become, the Basileus themselves. And then, of course, I've got, how many right now? 20,000 screaming Sunnis. Wait, they didn't convert, have they? Yeah, 20,000 screaming Sunnis who could potentially declare war on my empire. So those are some of the challenges that you will face. But one of the things that I say is, if you are really interested, right? So if you are fascinated by the Eastern Empire and how it survived or didn't survive, depending on how long you take the history, if this is a piece of history that means a lot to you, or you want to do an achievement like refounding the Roman Empire, I think playing out of a place of interest is going to motivate you to learn the mechanics that you need. On the other hand, though, if you're looking for a simpler start to a game, I will say that running an empire is a lot more complicated than running a county or a duchy. I think a duchy is a nice way to not make it, like, comically simple and, like, not make you feel like you're completely powerless, because I remember playing a game with somebody where they said that, playing as a count isn't that fun because you have to just sit around and wait. And, I mean, that's something that you need to learn in a game like this, right? Like, you don't have to be in total war all the time. I'd like to be in this realm, but, I mean, again, I've got my vassal limit, right? And I've got a peace treaty. Actually, this is one thing that I can do. I'll explain this in a minute to the people who are not familiar with the game. And all of the areas that have kind of dukes in waiting are they're owned by the Byzantine Empire. So if I declare war, I pay with what looks like, oh wow, over half of my my prestige, and then lower opinion from Christian rulers that I'm a truce breaker. Which again, there's not that many Christians I need to be worried about anymore. But still, it's a it's a consideration. So if I want to if I want to engage in conquest, it's going east, and certainly I do want to save my co-religionists from the followers of the Prophet. But doing so will necessitate me taking on more vassals, and I'm looking to reduce that number, not increase it. So, and again, I have another decision that I can make, is like, well, maybe I can take one of these kingdoms here, and you know, I can make somebody the king of something. Now, if I create kingdoms, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be creating yet another political entity that has agnatic, cognatic, gavelkind succession, and then I'm going to have to worry about changing all of those laws once I get the legalism that I want. So I don't want to add any more kingdoms than I already have. So then my next option is to turn somebody else into a king. Now, I said that I wanted to go for the achievement where I play a Lombard leader of Lombardy. You know, I guess I can give that away and I just assassinate my way back to ownership of it. But basically, again, I need to give up another title, and the question is to whether or not that is a worthwhile sacrifice. Is another one. I guess what I could maybe do here is give Saxony away. That might be a way of handling that, actually. But yeah, and basically what you're seeing here is that, you know, you have certain circumstances which I would never be worrying about this stuff if I wasn't an emperor. And they're just another stack of issues that I need to worry about, which sometimes will frustrate the experience of trying to learn basic things like, oh my god, why do my units always keep dying? Playing as a Shia is a pain? Okay. Who can resist making your sons mercenary captains? I know I can't, CPO Williams. Why didn't you play as nomads, take over an area, and then claim you're the Roman Empire? Fellspell, to get the achievement, you need to start as the Byzantine Empire. So, and if you turn the Byzantine Empire into anything but the Roman Empire, again, you don't get the achievement. Shiver did it. Oh my god, a Shia Republic. It was the hardest thing ever because you were stuck by the Umayyads and the Abbasids, who are crazy strong and mad at you. And what was the last year? Oh, you got 1453, the fall of Constantinople. CPO Williams, by the way, is a resident historian. I know you were... I can't remember if you were applying or if you were in a graduate program for history. Okay, so I've changed my mind about... about kings. As much as I like to have a lot of control over things, I like conquest more, and it feels like it's going to be a long time for me to get the succession laws that I want. I could maybe do seniority right now, but that's just going to be a succession of really old guys who die before they do what I want. So let's... Okay, we're going to change to agnatic cognatic first. I need to get that out of the way, because they're not going to do that voluntarily. And then... Actually, Ultimogen... Well, see, that's a tough one, because if I have, like, a super young kid, then I have a regency, which sucks. So, Ultimogen... Well, no, you know what? I have an empire, so in the end, I don't actually lose any of this territory. They just become vassals. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a minute to find out who in Saxony doesn't like me. And then I'm just going to give that to one of my sons. And actually, you know what? Probably the better thing for me to do is... None of these are in Saxony. Game, why you do this? Still working on your undergrad. Sorry, CPO. Also, I don't know if I remember, but you were mentioning that your vassals switching from republic to feudal government. They fixed that in the last patch. Oh. Now that you mention it, I seem to remember you saying that, but I'm an airhead. I'm sorry. Sometimes no, hang on. Oh, I'm fine with that. I don't have the... I mean, it's a nice problem to have, that I have a very active chat who's, always tells me really interesting stuff. But the filing cabinet's getting kind of full now. I'm turning into like an old man. I don't know what you youngins are talking about anymore. So. Okay, Duke of Holstein. Ah. I am a moron. Okay, so I could get my, 58. Yeah, screw it. I want to go to war. So, now we take Agnatic Cognatic. I will make my other son. So, this kind of sucks because he has Barcelona. I wasn't actually planning on turning Barcelona into... Not worth it. Yeah, so apparently Barcelona becomes part of Saxony for a while. As much as I hate to do that. But giving him Saxony will allow me to pass off a few more vassals, and in that case we can start conquering some of Spain. Looks like that's a Bavarian queen. So I think all the relevant vassals have already transferred over, but let's just make sure. Not a chance. Alright, I was kind of hoping that that would have freed up more. I was hoping that would have freed up more dukes than it did. But again, with luck. So notice... Oh, hang on, that's Pomerania. Damn it! Okay. I thought that was actually going to prompt a little bit more conquest, but maybe not. So what's that cost me as far as troops? Yeah, I'm under 20,000 again. So we're still over our vassal limit, but again, that was going to happen one way or the other. I think at this point here, we just declare war and add more duchies to our... Oh, we can't because... that would make us break the truce. Alright. I should have thought that through. So in this case, okay, so I said I was going to assassinate the Basileus. We're not going to do that anymore. The reason I wanted to do that is your truce is with the current ruler. So in this case here, this guy is younger by not a lot, but enough to matter. So he's 43. It's less likely that he's going to die on his own. He's also an impaler, so it's possible that there are going to be more people who dislike him in his realm. Whereas the Byzantine Empire, it's possible that this guy will just kick the bucket on his own because he's close to 60. So as soon as the ruler dies, I can declare war again. Again, remember I'm a little bit weaker than I was before because I gave away the Kingdom of Saxony. But probably enough, I think they're still at war with the Abbasids, so we should... Nope, they had a truce. So we actually, hopefully... Maybe it would have been better to have the assassin. I don't know. Ideally, he leaves this world sooner than later. He currently has about 3,000 hired mercenaries, so he is going to be cash-strapped for a bit. But yeah, ideally the Basileus will leave us soon, and also the current head of the Umayyad dynasty dies, so I can declare war on him. Could also try, I could try some claims in England, but I don't really have any CBs for that. Oops, it's that hour. So yeah, I could possibly claim Wessex, but I think that's going to create some more problems. The thing about claiming territory in Wessex is that this is now a couple of layers in, right? So the Queen of Bavaria currently has those holdings. So if I want to shape the realm the way I want it to be, I'm basically assuming that when I transfer that over to Bavaria, that they're not going to mess with the distributions, and that's a very poor assumption to make. So in this case here, I'm going to focus on Spain, just so I can add a little bit more to my personal holdings. Absolutely, it does, Shiver. I have taken massive penalties because I felt I was really annoyed by the fact that the duchies didn't actually follow the de jure borders. So I've had like a -50 penalties as I've just stripped these titles from people to reshape the realm that I want. But one nice thing is that if you have stuff that is a de jure part of your realm. Oh yeah, I was supposed to deal with my prisoners. The nice thing is that if you give that to AI that doesn't want to if you give that to like AI, it's possible that they'll just go conquer that on their own. So in this case, you just get free expansion, which is kind of nice. I have a feeling this is going to take a while to... Oh, wonderful. Oldenburg just got converted, so what do we have left? Technically, the revolutions that start from these are going to be my son's problem, but probably better I stamp out heresy wherever it flourishes. So I have a feeling it's going to take me a while to ransom these prisoners, but it's fine. Excuse me, I don't mind waiting for money. To the filthy Beckett Pepin, may wisdom ever elude you. I accept paying your ransom for the safe return of Georgios. Tell me how you really feel. A tidy realm is a happy realm. Well, I mean, one thing I will do is I will sometimes I will grant duchies on the assumption that somebody's going to try and usurp it, or somebody's gonna try and claim one title or another. But like in general, I try not to do distribution. Like I really don't like giving a vassal two duchies, and I mean I'm paying for that, right? But I am a little more comfortable somebody having like a single title like king than I am somebody having two duchies, just because in the end they become like, if they join a faction and you can't control all of their children, right? You just set yourself up for misery if you well, at least the way I play, like I generally like provoking potential faction leaders into a point where I can strip their titles. But I just feel like if you give two duchies to somebody, you have only yourself to blame when the faction goes out of control. All right, the most excellent Pepin II, peace be with you. We propose that Basileus Sinios and of the Byzantine Empire and Swanhild Wetgrigi, what a name, marry. Sure. It'd be nice if it was a family member so I could, if I could get a claim, but... This game needs a ransom. I would kill for a ransom all button. I'm also not quite sure why... I guess this is because their ruler doesn't have a high opinion of them. I'm never sure why some people don't go through. Like, I sometimes kind of want to just... I sometimes just want to, like, let them go because they have a high opinion of me, but... Actually, is there a way for me to see their opinion of their... Yeah, they like him too. I'm sick of being kind to everyone. Feel my wrath. Yeah. I don't know. I'll let them consider their fate in my dungeons for a little bit. I definitely don't release people who have negative opinions of me and could potentially join factions or conspiracies. Another son. Joy, oh joy. More people to fight. This is, by the way, why I didn't do Ultimageniture. Because this guy is going to be a complete pain. I suspect what would happen would be his regent would form some lower crown authority faction, and I would be stuck for the next 200 years trying to introduce primogeniture. I know, but sometimes you need to take a break from achievement hunting and go be the High Witch King of Canada and try to take over Atlantis. What mod is that? Please tell me that exists. I'm not sure. I don't think I've brought this up on this stream recently. I know I mentioned it a couple times on Tony's stream before. Oh God, I'm at 44 because I lost the kind trait, isn't it? I don't really need more fertility. Well, I mean, carousing would be kind of interesting because that gives me that minor, opinion boost. Let's change our focus. It'd be cool to have more kids, but I think, 3 sons, one of whom's already a king, is enough. Oh wow, a lot of people don't like me now. Oh yeah, it's because I changed my succession laws. Duh. You know what? I'm gonna lose a lot of prestige doing this, but let's go crazy. So, invite to carousing here is a little bit like hosting a feast. The catch is if they decline, you lose prestige. So in this case, inviting people who don't like me increases the chance that they are going to decline. But if they accept, they're going to like me more. Oh yeah, I can't... Curiously, even though we're French, we can't invite 13-year-olds to carouse. I'm sure this is not exactly what the mechanic was intended for, but I figure I might as well just do that for everybody. Not sure why I can't do that to this guy. He is definitely not a Muslim. Good. He's already busy. Anyways, yeah, sorry. I am Canadian, and I too would love to be the Witch King of Canada, so... Ewok Fuzzy Nuts, how the devil are you, sir? Ewok Fuzzy Nuts is another member of Team Panda. Been playing Diablo, if I was lurking properly. Sorry I didn't say hi last time. I wasn't sure how long I was going to be there, and I know I actually have a really bad habit of saying hi to you and then either like opening another game on my end. I know you've seen me play Crusader Kings a couple of times while you're on stream. I definitely have you on in the background, but it's I'm not always as disciplined when it comes to to being as active as a participant in your chat. So when I know I'm not going to be as focused as I should be, I don't always say hi. But it's nice to watch, especially because I do actually want to play Diablo at some point. But in any case, Ewok Fuzzy Nuts is a great guy. And he is actually, if I remember correctly, one of the first Team Panda streamers that I watched when I was getting into the team. And he was playing Minecraft. Now, I still haven't played Minecraft, other than like a small iPad demo. But I really liked watching it, and he did a good job of sort of explaining the appeal of the game to me. So, and it's again, I really like Terraria, so Minecraft may be the kind of game that that appeals to me. It's just been, you know, there's a lot of stuff that I'd like to play and haven't gotten around to for one reason or another. I think we're almost done with my vassals. This is also a really beloved pope, so if I wasn't too busy trying to assassinate heads of state, it would be cool to... Oh god, I'm never doing this again. This takes forever. I would maybe try and kill this pope just so some of the other folks... or so I can get a little bit more of that bishopric tax money. I really don't need to invite a lot of these like lesser bishops, but just because these are all like, this is the part where people like me. These people are, I mean, it doesn't hurt to have some extra opinion on that. All right, that took forever. What happened in what happened in chat? Wives may not be important, but scullery maids with huge intellects are. I love that event. It's very useful to me. The mod is Geinsmacht? Or, I know Nacht. Geheimnisnacht. It's a Warhammer Fantasy mod, which features a slightly warped map of the world. The person in question is the High Witch King Malekith of Nagarond, Canada, who seeks to establish a claim on his homeland. So I didn't know there was a Warhammer one. I knew... there's a Witcher one, which actually really interested me. And Game of Thrones is obviously a masterpiece of a mod, although not currently compatible with the most recent patch, which is a little sad. But if you do, let me know. It'll help you out. Yeah, it's actually a pure storage problem that I have right now. I did a changing of the guard of the games, and I added XCOM, which is 20 gigabytes download. I don't know how large... Or is it 20 gigabytes or is it 12? I don't know. It's in the tens of gigabytes. So if I wanted to add Diablo 3, my ISP would yell at me, which I'm okay with, but then I wouldn't have that much hard drive space, and I have a feeling the swap space would scream, and my stream would crash a lot more than it already does. So I think probably the biggest drag on resources right now is Brutal Legend. I think when I finish that game I can uninstall it, and I'll have space for Diablo 3. But looking forward to it. I really like your... You know, I was introducing you, and then I kind of like left you to the wolves. I really like watching you play that game. And I mean, it was fun to watch you play Heroes of the Storm and stuff like that too. But it was... I don't know. Like I'm really looking forward to trying it, even though I haven't finished. Torchlight, which should be the same thing. But yeah, anyway, so I knew there was a Witcher mod, I knew there was a Game of Thrones mod, but Warhammer mod actually sounds really cool. And Shiver's saying, I don't know if you checked it out yet, but there's a game that just came out in closed beta, Duelist. It's really good, like a marriage of Fire Emblem and Hearthstone. That's really interesting, actually. I've been trying to get some of the Team Panda members into Infinity Wars, which I think is a really fun collectible card game. It's complicated, but that's, I mean, in case you guys haven't noticed, this is the kind of thing that I like. Dear cousin, of course I will feast with you. Bring my best appetite for it. All right, I think everybody's saying yes, which I'm very happy about. Oh, so missed out on 2. Unfortunately, I cannot join your merrymaking for this time. Thank you for the kind invitation. So in this case, I'm missing 3 prestige. Looks like we minus 12 or 15. I'll say minus 15. Minus 18. He doesn't know what he's missing. I'm not going to read all this again. So 21, 24, 27, 30, 33, 36, 39, Wow, 42, 45. 48, 51. I feel like I've missed the count somehow. 54, 7, 60. No, 60 right. 63. Wow. 6, 69. I'm probably going to lose over 100. 72. 75, 78, 81, 84. Yeah, so I basically paid 84 to invite everybody. Oh, 87, 90, 93, 96. Yeah, there we go. So actually, Trevor, I don't know what Fire Emblem though is. Is that just? I'm assuming that's another card game. Go get Battle Fury 4. Oh, saying it to Kite. I actually I think is it Battlefield 3? I don't know, it's on Origin. But something tells me nobody wants to downgrade their game so they can play an FPS with me. Oh, you pulled your lower back. I'm sorry to hear that, Ewok. I know it feels like everybody's just been going through a lot of like really tough stuff in lower back is that sucks, but that's not the thing I was thinking of. On Team Panda, so I didn't really communicate that just because it felt like there was a lot of it and people had already sort of said anything that I could say, but I'm sorry to hear both the minor crap and the major crap happening to you. I really wouldn't wish that on a person I like less, so I'm sorry to hear that it's happening to you. Diablo 3 is about 18 gigs. Yeah, I think that's what it was. And you've got XCOM 1v1 I will get my ass kicked, but I'm very happy to 1v1 you in XCOM, Ewok. Can't wait to get your CPU so you can play Diablo 3 again. I didn't know you played Diablo 3 CPU, Williams. And if I decide to check out, I'm sorry, I'm not going to pronounce it, the Warhammer one, you'd wait until the end of the week. They're putting in another patch to fully flesh out Karnstein Dynasty vampires, so you can play as the Beastmen with the Horse Lords, though they function 100% fine without Horse Lords so long as you do not play them. So yeah, CPO Williams graphics card. Had a friend play Battlefield 4 and you heard his water cooler for his PC gave out on Team C. It sounded like a car backfiring. Oh my god. You should really check it out if you like CCGs. They give keys to pretty much anybody asking on the forums within a few hours. In your opinion, it's an amazingly good game. Absolutely, Shavor. Could I get you... Let me just make sure I have it right here. Duelist. At the end of the stream tonight, I actually might show you guys... I know I've done Infinity Wars before, but I'm kind of feeling up to doing a couple of other things. By the way, Peasant is my co-caster for Dota 2. He will actually be doing a regular podcast sometime in the future, so we still need to work out a proper time and we're fleshing out ideas. But that's a little something to look forward to. I know some of my summer projects didn't turn out the way that I wanted them to, but that is the guy I'm going to be making a little bit of content with, and whenever we cast together, he has got a better streaming setup, so you get to hear my voice, but you get to have the advantage of his better computer. So yeah, Shiver, I'll definitely check it out, and I'm always looking for good new games to play, although I'm also very bad at finishing them, because there are just so many really good ones to play. Yeah, and by the way, guys, so CPO Williams has actually already started streaming, but I believe the streaming begins in earnest once he gets his new machine. So awesome! Thank you so much, Shivor. I don't think chat is so active that I'll lose that, but I will. I'll open that in a new tab. There might be a few drop frames for the next little bit. Mighty Phillips, push the filthy Muslims out of Spain for glorious Christendom. That's the plan. We need to assassinate their leader first, but that's the plan. Yeah, Newok Fuzzy Nuts, I think you said you do marketing, don't you? I mean, that still sucks. But... Alright, what's my chaplain? 64. I really don't like turning this guy negative, but I'll say, of course, he's a heretic, because I'd kind of like to have my chaplain get a little bit better. Oh, Crackle Mike, thank you guys. That's right, Kite. Thank you. I'm trying to remember why the hell Yes, that was a cool looking game too. Okay, I'm really interested in Duelist now. Only Bill Hicks thinks you're the devil. Ewok Fuzzy Nuts. Yeah, Shivor, it's unfortunately, so the way that OBS, actually I'll show you guys what I do sometimes for this. So this is my memory usage. I can hit the optimize button, that'll clear out some of the file. I know this is going to be really boring for you. I think most of the research stuff is done, so I don't need to see that. So to give you an idea of my bad browsing habits, like this is how many individual windows I keep open. And I think, which one is my, like, research? No. Well, actually, so here's a good example. Like, and a lot of these particular windows have this many tabs open. So obviously my browser is going to take up a whole lot of memory. I mean, I've got a video in the background here. This is a great game, by the way. I want to get back to Endless Legend. Now, I know I'm, like, so if I get rid of my overlay, like, you can see how much of my RAM's being taken up here, but I've noticed that I suspect the Crackle mic is happening. So there's no built-in audio capture in the multi-platform version of OBS, and they like to pretend that there's an off-the-shelf solution for it, but the versions that they have... Oh, it's still crackly. Huh. Let me try that again. How about now? It's alright, guys. So, yeah, that is a Roomba, actually. So, somebody told me that he has a really good introduction to... he has a good introduction to Endless Legend. So, I found the game a little hard to get into, because Amplitude's not that good at making tutorials for their games, but they make really good games. So I figured his Let's Plays... So I actually get now why people like recommending him to me. I mean, I'm clearly not a streamer of his caliber, but I think he's got a good format going. I really like his conversational style. So I figure I'm not really one for Let's Plays, but I figured that he probably has... I think he has the kind of tone that I like, and I thought that would be a good way to get me into Endless Legend. So I'm picking up a few things that I wasn't considering before in that game, and I'm enjoying it a lot more. Now it seems fine. Okay, fantastic. Thanks, guys. Gaius Marius Maximus, you never understand this game. I'm probably doing a really bad job of it too, because I'm talking about everything but Crusader Kings 2. Do you just watch it, or do you play it yourself and just couldn't get your head around it? What's your background with Crusader Kings? Endless Space is a wonderful game. I really like it. My mic is in Spanish mode. You can't understand me. Ole! Endless Legend is amazing. Yeah, I mean, it was mostly... So the problem I ran into was I got most of the 4X parts, but as soon as I got into combat, I would have, like, combat where I felt I had everything... Like, the AI had kicked my ass with that combo before. And yet, when I was going into combat with that, I was just getting completely wiped out. So I still don't quite understand the mechanics as well as I should. But I really enjoyed Endless Space, and Endless Legend, I mean, it's a beautiful looking game. The score is fantastic, and I love the setting. So it's a game I really wanted to get into, and so I thought kind of my first proper sit down with a Roomba should be getting me into Endless Legend. And yeah, it's really neat that they've created this they've kind of created this lore around the game. So Roomba taught you how to do merchant republics, and then you proceeded to own the Byzantine Empire as Orthodox Venix. 10 out of 10 tutorials. Excellent. And you got to memorize the combos. Okay, that's good to know. I'm still going to let her rot. And we still need to push the followers of the Prophet out of Spain. Early Reconquista. Guests have arrived for the private feast that you've arranged. It's time to get the carousing and merriment begin. So, in this case, I was doing this for a little bit of prestige. I suspect it's probably a net loss for me, although I am still young enough as a ruler that the ticking prestige might count for something. But there's mostly just a way to try and even the balance a little bit from the changes to succession laws that I made, and just generally the sorts of things that my vassals are going to be mad about. Also, keep in mind, I've got a lot of opinion that I'm just leaving on the table, because I've got negative 27 from just having my levies raised for so long. So unless we see the untimely death, or timely as the case may be, death of the Umayyad Sultan, I'm not going to be doing any fighting. The races are so diverse and Endless Legend completely different from one another. It's an interesting game. Yeah, I actually really like playing the Cultists, which is weird because I normally like playing very expansionist civilizations in games like that, and the Cultists are anything but. Like the Cultists are almost comparable to India in Civilization 5, where there's an achievement for playing as like 1 or 3 cities. But they're interesting, and I mean, just the lore and the animations behind it are all really interesting. So, way off topic, but you've been rewatching Star Trek: The Next Generation. You really want a replicator. You know, Ewok Fuzzy Nuts, I gotta admit, I've never watched an episode of Star Trek. I've seen a couple of the movies. I saw First Contact and a bad one, I think it was called Nemesis. I don't know. It's like something, it was really cheap in the video store. So, no, not that I dislike Star Trek or anything like that. I just, you know, there's time for gaming, there's time for Twitch, there's time for homework, but not all of them at once. And, you know, I like my research job and I like what I'm studying, so I gotta make sure that I both keep money coming in and, you know, a wonderful quote from Game of Thrones: "The mind needs books like a sword needs a whetstone." I've not had as much time for reading as I want. And there's so many good non-econ things to read, you know, whether they're history, political economy. Okay, so political economy is kind of econ. Poli-sci, game development is something I've wanted to do. I actually have a concrete idea that I've always wanted to make, but you know, there's 100 guys who say that they wanna make something, but to actually realize it is another matter. I have no idea if I'll even start that. You know, there's just a lot of stuff to do. So as much as I love television, I absolutely give me every form of entertainment possible. I'll devour it. But it's especially because reading is one of those things that it's easy to fall out of the habit of. I really need to make sure that I get more disciplined with it. I haven't read a work of fiction in forever, which is another thing that I want to do. So, for Glorious Christian, Deus Vult, remove kebab. Move kebab to grill. And yes, he plays a Total War series. It's much easier than the style game. Absolutely. So the best way to think of it, in my opinion, I'll read the dialogue first. These days of revelry are an excellent escape. So many laughs and so many intense conversations in such a short time. It brings you closer to your companions and you feel like good friends already. You're my best friend. Now this is great because this is the Queen of Bavaria. Actually, one problem I have with this, though, is somebody outside of my dynasty. So, but I think that's actually happening no matter what because it wasn't a matrilineal marriage. So such is life. He'll still be my vassal though, so I get to take the title away whenever I want. But to Gaius Marius Maximus, so I should actually say that I'm not that familiar with the Total War series, but the best way for me to think about in this is that Total War has a better focus on combat, and the game is sort of shaped around that. And I would say that this is a much more political game. The way I make sense of it, we were talking about this a little bit earlier in the stream, was I always start with my character here, and there are certain things that are going to be shaping my decisions. So right now I've got a vassal limit, which I'm over. I've got a certain number of troops, and I happen to know from checking all the other menus that this is actually the largest number of troops in the region, so I don't have a lot to fear militarily. My gold could be better. So what I want to do right now is bring my vassals under heel, but I've also set myself a goal of keeping the number of kingdoms that I give away to a minimum. So in this case, I can only achieve that through increasing my diplomacy. Now, I also want to expand the size of my realm, so I had to do a little bit of rigging and just sort of give some titles to people that maybe I wouldn't have wanted to, but for the greater good, I was willing to sacrifice them. So in this situation here, I'm making all of these decisions based on the information that this screen has given me, and then when I come to manage my realm, I focus on this screen, which allows me to sort of subdivide it in 5 different categories. And I will be making these moves based on I'll be making these moves kind of based on what I decided in that previous screen. So the combat here is not particularly sophisticated. It's one big set of numbers versus another big set of numbers, and there's obviously like modifiers and rulers that you have inside of it. But I definitely think this as a little bit more of, a political sim, almost like a spreadsheet game, with some RPG elements thrown in. And once I wrap my head around that, I found the game quite a bit more enjoyable. Sudakovic, thank you very much for that follow. You guys have been very generous with your follows tonight. I always imagine that I've sort of hit my peak in terms of like the big growth for this stream, and yet here we are now at 386. So thank you guys. It means a lot that I get that support, and it means even more that I have such a great active chat participating. All right, I got to catch up with chat. Sorry, the reveling and carousing are over for now. Time to get back to real life. Well, that was fun. I gained 20 prestige, an additional diplomacy, which will hopefully help me with my vassal limit. And I get the recent carousing modifier. Alright, so let me catch up with what's going on in chat, because I've been busy monologuing. Watch the episode Darmok and you'll be hooked. CK2 boats suck and there's no cable. Yes! I actually think that the game... So, I mean, I don't know a lot about, military history, but there certainly was naval combat even before the Middle Ages. So I have no idea why they didn't implement that in the game. I mean, I think it might be a balance decision. So, like, the idea here that, so if somebody forms the Holy Roman Empire, clearly they're going to want to add the rest of the material. Mighty Phillips, thank you very much for that follow, too. I thought you were following before, actually, but my apologies for assuming incorrectly. I'm glad to see you decided to follow. I feel like I should probably get a better... I mean, I like that Woody Allen attributes it to Freud. I like that quote, but Woody Allen's voice is not exactly the sort of thing that people consider a reward. So, but yeah, like, I'm just thinking it's not unreasonable to imagine that Lombardy or somebody who founds the Holy Roman Empire is going to want to claim these territories. And yeah, the Byzantine Empire will probably have a large fleet or something like that, but if you can just imagine how frustrating it would be to try and move people over land to defend that holding, I suspect that's probably a balanced decision that they made to basically allow free movement of ships. But it's not... I don't know. I feel that they could have done better with that, personally. But yeah, and then imagine all the clutter. There would have to be different kinds of boats. Exactly, so... What the hell are they doing raiding Africa non-stop? As long as they're not raiding me, although they obviously are. Skystone series is your recommendation for what I can read for pleasure next. Oh, great. I've got a couple of Neil Stevenson books that I need to catch up on, but like I said, always looking for more reading, so I'm going to make a note, and I'm going to do better than I did with checking out old Captain Sparkles. I use 1060 dog, stop being a filthy pagan. What's your domain right now? My domain is 8 of 8. It's basically, I think it's Valois and Champagne. Let me just double check that. So yeah, I have Valois and... No, sorry, Orleans. So in this case, 7 counties, and then I've got I think there was like a keep that wound up... Or sorry, a castle that wound up being created somewhere, so I just stripped that from somebody. Ideally, I would wind up founding a bunch of cities. But unfortunately, I have got my vassal problems. I don't have a lot of money right now, so I think the next ruler, once I'm done kind of my obvious conquests, I might take a ruler and load him up with the business trait, and I think in that case maybe I can start putting some money into... I mean, it's so early right now, I should be building things like universities, because those will pay for themselves pretty quickly. There's a conspiracy against the player, they keep wanting to raid me. Well, that's why we should play a big multiplayer game. Do you try to center them all together? I definitely try to center them all together. I have a big problem with lots of factions coming up. So I did move the capital of Paris just because it's obviously such a strong economic center. But one of the reasons why I like a condensed domain is that if like the wheels fall off the realm and I've got a huge revolution to deal with, it's nice to be able to take my forces and combine them very, very quickly. And then if I can, if I can cut the rebel forces in half, it doesn't necessarily matter that they have more troops than me, because in the end, if they can't combine together into that doom stack, they're just easy things for my, for my personal levies to gobble up. So I definitely prefer to have a very condensed realm, although I'm not opposed. If I, let's say I had a sufficiently high stewardship that I could add another holding to my domain, I'm certainly not opposed to hanging on to one or two in a weird place just while I build a duchy or something like that. Again, purely a personal choice on my part, but it definitely, I noticed that it works quite well for my, my playstyle. Maybe it's because the player usually has better upgraded buildings, it's bigger income. Yeah, good point. Yeah, there's definitely... And actually, I was specifically thinking of Archimedes when I was thinking about naval combat before the Middle Ages. So I'm glad we're on the same boat. Although I guess Rome probably had the really impressive stories. Although no, that's absolutely not true. I mean, the Greek defeat of the Persians. We did that. By the way, for those of you looking for history readings, sorry to send everybody my highlights, but if you want to hear me read Ernst Gombrich's Little History of the World, there's that. We take it from prehistoric man up to the Greek defeat of the Persians, and we will be doing that reading again. Probably not tonight, but I am really looking forward to reading some more chapters. We'll be doing Rome. We'll probably head up to the beginning of the Charlemagne part, and then we'll probably save the Middle Ages for their own reading. But if you guys are looking for something to listen to, and you like history, which tends to be a common feature of Crusader Kings 2 fans, definitely feel free to check that out. It's probably about an hour and a half of reading long. It's a children's book, so don't expect anything particularly sophisticated. I mean, I do have a book on the Glorious Revolution, but Gaius Marius Maximus, thank you very much for following, especially on a game which I know you're not a huge fan of, so that's definitely really appreciated. But yeah, if you guys are interested in that kind of stuff, it's something you can kind of put on in the background. I know some people say they like the sound of my voice, so if you are one of those people, feel free to give that a listen. All right, cornerstones of naval military technology: battering rams and boats, fire arrows on boats, cannons, and don't forget fire boats. Advancements was the word you were looking for, not cornerstones. Yeah, Venice is obviously protected by a giant wall of money, also from Sicily to Greece, just to make sense. Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I can't actually invade Venice, but it's very easy for me to crawl into the the Byzantine Empire. Yeah, see the thing about I don't actually mind a speed 2 game, so I pause a lot because I talk a lot. But I actually noticed that a speed 1 or 2 is enough time that you can kind of like make all of your decisions in real time. So I'm kind of okay with speed 2, although I probably wouldn't do like a 769 to 1453 playthrough unless I had like really patient people with me. But some people can't even hold sync on speed 2. Oh, that sucks. Even with my crappy internet, I'm able to hold sync at 2. Actually, you know what? CPO, we were able to get to speed 3, weren't we? You'll follow for tutorials and tricks? No, not a problem at all, guys. Marius Maxis. I'll definitely say I'm not the only one here who actually likes talking to people about CK2 as well. So if you ever have any questions, just drop them in chat. I know I'm not always great at reading chat right away, but if I don't get to it right away, somebody in chat will. And definitely when people have questions about the game, I make sure as long as I read them, and I may be slow at reading chat sometimes, but I definitely make sure that I read every message that comes through. If you have a question and nobody has answered it, I will do my best to answer it for you. And keep in mind, of course, this is my second Iron Man playthrough, so I'm by no means an expert on the game. But one of my great joys has been to share games with people, especially games that I enjoy a lot. And if I can bring you a little bit closer to enjoying Crusader Kings 2, then that will bring me as much enjoyment as I hope you have playing that game. So with that in mind, we also do this game every Friday here. So as long as you have a Friday open, I will be here to ramble on in your ear about various miscellaneous elements of history and strategy in the Crusader Kings 2 series. I'm not playing as a Merchant Republic. I am feudal. I'm playing as playing as a Holy Roman Empire. Or is that maybe that wasn't intended for me. But. Oh yeah. No, so my plan here. Sorry, a festive outing in the wild. I found a message left amidst the wildflowers addressed to my cousin Gertrudis. The would-be lover, Prince Bishop Gunther, is waiting by her stream near the camp. Oh, this is neat. So when I am playing a seducer, sometimes the woman doesn't show up because her guardian. I never thought of that. Yeah, so talking about cities, the idea here... Oh, actually, so I did build these cities in Paris. So, Orleans. I've got 2 unused... So, this is... You can think of this as a building, you can think of this for yourself. So let's take a problem that people will find. So let's say we're at that point, one day I will reach this myself. You finish school, you either have paid off your student loans or they are in a plan such that you have dedicated a certain portion of your income to, to paying them down, and they will be taken care of. So they are no longer a burden on your finances. And you're at that wonderful point now where you've sort of built up a little bit of savings for yourself. You've got emergencies taken care of. You have no reason to believe that if you do have something unexpected happen to you, like an illness or you lose your job or something like that, you've got a background. So you've got enough of a nest egg set aside, and you have a positive amount, which isn't just, you don't necessarily feel like you want to spend it just purely on entertainment, right? So one thing that probably wasn't that great for me was before I went to university, I worked in the film industry for a little while. And as a cameraman, the pay is actually fairly good. Not like, I'm going to be happier when I have a MA in economics. But especially, just out of high school, to make money like that is, you're doing okay. And especially because I didn't have student loans. So, I definitely spent a lot more on entertainment style stuff than I did set aside. Now, I wasn't an idiot. Like, a lot of my school has been paid for from some savings. But this is the kind of point, this is a point that most people at some point will hit in their lives, which is they've got money set aside to deal with emergencies. There is a cash surplus. Now, you can leave that in a bank account. right? And you will get a token amount of interest, but at some point you are going to want to take that money and invest it. So this is kind of where I'm talking about cities here, is I can build another castle, but that will add to my domain, which I don't necessarily want to do, or I create an account, or not account, but I create a baron, and that's not quite, like, it doesn't quite give me what I'm looking for. I've already got a big enough military. I could make a bishopric. That would be okay for my piety, and it wouldn't be bad for my money as long as I was able to keep the attitudes in the right place. So personally what I like doing is building cities, because they may not give you a lot of troops, but they give you a lot of money, and they're a lot easier to kind of take care of as far as the opinion is concerned. So even though I'm not playing a Merchant Republic, I actually would want probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cities, just so I can make a stupid amount of cash. And I mean, at that point, I could probably free up my steward to do researching economic technology. Because, of course, cities will also give you things like universities and so on and so forth. And basically, it's even though they're not personal holdings of mine, they're ultimately something that will strengthen my realm through the bonuses that they give. Have a great night, Kite260. Oh, I hate seducing so much. It's been a while since you've had any faithful wives. Yep. Especially when you have a lot of vassals in my realm. Oh, crackling. Thanks, guys. Hopefully that's fixed it. Please let me know if it didn't. Or rather, please let me know if it did. Yeah, so when I was playing my Indian ruler, my wife was unfaithful, so I divorced her and took 3 concubines. Find a mage with a huge intellect, marry her, screw the haters, prestigious for nerds and Muslims. More importantly, screw the scullery maid. Oh yeah, she still cheats. But at least the kids have good stats. You thinking? Yeah, I mean, Shivor, as cool as it is to imagine that everybody was screwing like rabbits in the Middle Ages, and it's good like soap opera stuff. Yeah, I definitely agree that there are way too many unfaithful wives in this game, especially because I mean, like, I'm assuming the actual penalty for that is beheading, like I really don't think, like, catching your wife and some courtier in the act actually merits a -10 opinion amongst the realm for beheading the guy. Like, the game's a little silly in that regard, I agree. The Waldesian heresy has appeared in the province of St. Gallen. Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in. Maybe I should just convert. Collected a tithe in Paris. The money should reach you along with this letter. Easy 80 gold. Alright, has the Basileus left us yet? Nope. And I should be so lucky. Oh, you think it doesn't? I should double check that. Because every time I've tried to execute somebody, even if I've had cause, it's always given me losses. Get out of here, you filthy Scandinavians. Again, apologies to my Scandinavian. I don't know if I can call you fans anymore, but my Scandinavian viewers. Think you can imprison and execute as justified, actually. Okay. Well, I'll find out. I mean, it's not like it's not gonna happen. So you can find it. Oh my god, I've got 45 out of 45 vassals. Beautiful. Oh, and Mighty Phillips, if that's you saying goodnight, have a good night to yourself, although I wasn't sure if that was for Kite or not, so... just sick that you have to deal with it while working on your genius, strong, attractive eugenics program. Yeah, something about this game that makes you, you just imagine some German scientist. Yes, that's very good. Looking at the mechanics of Crusader Kings 2. If you expose them as an adulteress, you get a -10 opinion, so it evens out. But it's whether or not you expose them. You don't know how the trigger causes it to happen at random. They get the -10, yeah. I mean, I'm assuming somebody who's chosen to seduce my wife doesn't care that much about me anyway, so. Only got Genius Strong up until now. Got Random Genius Strong Attractive Courtier once random generated, which is pretty insane. Yeah, it's like, at that point, it's like, well, can I just switch to him? Alright, I believe that one of your vassals can be discouraged from associating in conspiratorial factions if the proper leverage is obtained. How do you wish to proceed? So he is scarred, cynical, envious, proud, lustful, deceitful, and depressed. Blackmail him or threaten him? Let's threaten him. Got 25,000 troops to back up my words. Hopefully that'll work. Another tithe. Easy 82 gold. Had Genius Tough died at age 17 of an accident. Just an accident, not even anything suspicious. Where'd your intellect get you there now, smarty pants? See you at the bottom of the ravine. Honored Emperor, I ask your forgiveness if I have done something to offend. I obviously wouldn't dream of associating with any faction conspiring against you or your enlightened rule. You are forgiven. Although I think he's negative opinion of me now. So let's just take a minute here and see what horrible business we've got up to. So that faction that I left to deal with that vassal has now become a problem. So that's where my Spy Master's going. And again, I have no reason to fabricate claims. The only reason why I'd fabricate claims would be in England. I'm not ready to invade there yet. There's plenty of stuff to do on the continent, particularly in Iberia. So, what I want to be using my Chancellor for right now is diplomacy. So in this case, I'm just going to try and win over the hearts and minds of my vassals who are ungrateful wretches, because we're sort of... Oh, actually, I've been talking way too much. There's still a lot of opinion on the table, which I can get from the vassal levies. Rest of the factions I'm not too worried about, but I do want to... Especially stuff like Lower Crown Authority. Like, I don't really fear this faction getting enough support to become a problem, and I can always hire mercenaries if it does become sufficiently problematic. But again, the last thing I want to do is like get into some super nasty fight with the Byzantine Empire and then have that faction trigger. So it's better, as much as I'd like to be using the Spy Master to go maybe steal tech or something like that, I'm not quite ready to give up on excuse me. I'm not quite ready to give up on squishing factions, even if they're not that credible of a threat. I don't know if we're going to be able to do an invasion of Spain, by the way, guys. I do actually... I'm thinking I might do a couple of extra things for the evening. I'm not quite done streaming yet, but I think I might be done. Oh, I forgot to educate my child. I think I might be done with Crusader Kings in a bit. Right, so even though she's a member of our bloodline, we're fairly secure with the sons that we have. So what I usually like to do here is make the most of the 20 opinion. I don't really know of any reason. Like, so if I'm going to marry this girl off. I don't actually expect her to inherit anything. So, and the AI doesn't seem to want to marry somebody more or less based on their stats. So in this case here, these basically become fodder for opinion. In this case here, the Duke of Champagne has -16. You could also make that argument for this Baron, but in this case here, this guy has basically more stuff that I want. So in this case here, usually daughters I wind up just putting off to. In this case, he is a... greedy, wroth, honest, arbitrary, paranoid 31-year-old. Have fun. Oh, she's only got a year left. FTL maybe? Maybe. Actually, I had something else in mind, but we'll see how the muse moves me. I really should play more FTL, though. It's a really good game. And actually, Lethal Frag recently retired FTL, which is something of a shame, just because he was so good at it. I still don't know how to make progress in that game. I haven't deleted FTL from my PC, even though my Mac is kind of like my primary gaming machine now, precisely because it is the only machine where I've beaten the flagship. I've not been able to beat it since, and I don't want to lose the ships that I gained from that. It doesn't seem to have any cloud support, so... I'm also trying not to pause as much. Like, if there's something important that comes up, I'll pause. Like educating a child or something like that. But things like this, like just crushing in raiders, I'm going to try not to pause. Never understand how Frag managed to get the stealth ship to work. You hate the damn thing. I've not even... Like, I've seen the stealth ship on a Frag stream, but I'm not even close to getting that. I've still got just 2 flavors of Kestrel and I think like an NG ship. And it's weird. Like, this is one thing for me. Like, I don't... Like, so I talked about my... I talked about how rewarding it was to play Dark Souls without hints. Now, I mean, yeah, obviously this is the kind of... I think this is something somebody can be rightly proud of. But, like, it's not... The point behind that isn't like, you know, I'm going to go to my friend Alex who's just had a kid and it's like, you looking up your walkthroughs for Dark Souls, huh? You know, like, that's not the point behind it. It's just that that was a challenging game which I wanted to face head on. Some people will get enjoyment from that, others won't. Sorry, I was going somewhere. Oh, right. So, oh God. Okay. I'll finish this thought and then we'll punch some heretics. So, my temperament is such that I am not opposed to learning materials. So, for instance, because I knew that there was a lot of greatness in Endless Legend that I was missing out on, I want to go and watch an Arimba Let's Play because I feel that seeing how he looks at that game is going to give me a lens through which to understand it. I never really like carbon copying what other people are doing. I mean, I think, you know, at that point you necessarily limit the quality of your play to imitation of somebody else. Like, why would I want to be a second-rate Arumba when I can be a first-rate System Jock? Right? That's what Ravel actually said to Gershwin when he wanted music lessons or composition lessons. Although I obviously wasn't saying System Jock. So I usually avoid a lot of like learning material and stuff like that. But it really impresses me to watch people like Frag. So like this is the dilemma that I have. I'm really impressed to watch a player like Frag, who I feel like every single run that he goes on, he has every chance of getting through to the end of the flagship. He doesn't always do it, but like every run, even on a hard mode, he has got the system down, and it's just a question about how well he implements his understanding of the game. Whereas when I play FTL, I really feel like the game is balanced enough that you know you have the chance of winning every single time. But I'm not at that point. It's a little bit like Dota 2. Like Dota 2, I know I should be better than I actually am, and I'm not because there are still some things that are happening to me that I have not been able to articulate. I haven't been able to identify that specific weakness in my play. And it's why some heroes I'm better than others. And likewise with FTL, one thing I could do is go to a wiki, read every single event, and say, okay, I've got the perfect strategy down. Or I could go to a forum and say, hey, how do I get to the flagship and beat it? But to me, a lot of the enjoyment of the game is that process of discovery and sort of that opportunity of figuring out, I was like, oh, this is something that I should do, and I'm going to make that progress a little bit further and a little bit further. The one drawback about doing that for streaming is it's a lot of failure. And I notice, actually, there's a lot of comments I tend to get. It's like, oh, you must be new at this game. I'm like, thanks. But it's true. Like, obviously, I'm not doing that well in the game because I have really wanted to try and make my own way. And it's kind of stubborn. But I think the thing that impresses me the most is I have no reason to believe that Frag went and consulted a walkthrough or a guide. I really think that when I was watching him on those runs, that was the man himself and all of that effort that he put into understanding that game coming to the fore. So, one day. But probably not when I don't play that game regularly. Failspell, you have a bunch of ships, you know how to use them, but the stealth ship you just can't make work. You've had issues with other ships and always gotten lucky, figured it out, and have never got the stealth ship to function past it. Hello, love of my life. I don't know who Rebellion is, but welcome. See, you learn games like you do, bang your head against them until you either pass out or the game lets you advance. Yeah, it's like, to me, that is the fun. Like, I don't get, I think I was really pissed off about this stuff for some reason. Like, I was tweeting about it every single day. Waldesian heretics have risen up in St. Gallen, led by a militant fanatic. If not swiftly crushed, this revolt could spread like wildfire. So, I've got 2,500 troops here. They're not, so, I mean, they're heretics. By the way, I think I might be going staticky again. If somebody could just confirm or deny. Why did my stewardship go down? Oh, my wife died. I should have been paying attention to that. What am I doing? Okay with a Greek wife, even though she's Orthodox, but I don't like the fact that she's 40. Zero static in your end. Okay, cool. Yeah, so, oh my god, no. Jesus. I really don't have any options. I probably would if I didn't screw up the ordering. You know, I'm just gonna hold that. First thing I should do anyway is set my ambition. All right, so I was talking about learning games. Also why I raised my levy. So in this case here, 5450, they're not going to be well armed because they are heathen. But in this case, I do want to have the force of numbers. So, you know, I would normally bring up vassals for this, but I'm also trying to make the negative opinion from vassals cool down a little bit. Yeah, so as far as... Oh yeah, and I need a wife. This might take a while just because I need to find somebody who's old enough to matter and also prestigious enough to... Okay, that works. She's a relative, though. Well, I mean,